Chapter 1422. A Bet 3. Father. We're here to talk to you. Yin Xian held Yin Ping's arm and said coyly, "Oh, what was it? You even came all the way here to find me?" Yin Ping didn't understand. At this moment, a guard came over and reported, "Acting Patriarch, Xiaohua has sent someone to invite you. He said that he has something to tell you." "What's the matter?" Yin Ping frowned and said with obvious displeasure. These few days, he had been annoyed to death by the couple. He had never thought that they would be so annoying before. However, he was getting more and more impatient with them. Yin Xian and her daughter saw Yin Ping's expression and laughed in their hearts. It seemed that the other party also wanted to tell Yin Ping about this matter, but unfortunately, they were the first ones to do so. With them around, Yin Ping naturally couldn't leave them to see Xiaohua. After all, his wife and daughter were the most important. The person didn't say. The guard also felt Yin Ping's displeasure and quickly said, "You go and tell the person that I have something to do now, and will be there later." Yin Ping thought for a moment. He definitely couldn't not go over. If he didn't go over, Xiaohua and his wife would keep sending people to find him. Now that his wife and daughter had something to tell him, he naturally had to take care of his wife and daughter first. "Yes," the guard replied and turned to leave. "Sister Lin Xian, you can speak your mind now." After the guard left, Yin Ping spoke again. When his wife and daughter heard the guard's report, he didn't miss the expression on their faces. "Mother, you can tell father," Yin Xian said. "Yeah." Shaolin nodded, then told them about Lung Ruoxia's request and their visit to her. After Yin Ping heard this, his brows furrowed even deeper, and he didn't say a word. It was unknown what he was thinking. Shaolin and Xian saw his expression and didn't disturb him. After a while, "If Xiaohua wants to see me, it's also about this matter, right?" "Yes." Shaolin and Xian nodded. "Sister Lin, in the past, whenever Xiaohua had any problems, he would always ask me for help. If I don't help him this time, I'm afraid he'll have other thoughts." Yin Ping said with some difficulty. He understood the meaning of his wife and daughter. They wanted Xiaohua and his wife to pay the compensation themselves. However, how could that couple be willing to pay the price? "Father, it's precisely because you've meddled too much in the past that we can't meddle with them this time. This matter was originally Cousin Lan's fault and Sister Shui has evidence. If the elders of the clan find out about this evidence, you can forget about convincing the public as the acting patriarch in the future." Yin Xian reminded. "It's that serious?" Yin Ping said as he looked at his wife and daughter. He only knew that Xiaolan had a conflict with the people living in Mingxi Garden, and was beaten up by their beastie. However, he didn't know the exact reason. Xiaolan's guards had all come to the same conclusion, and insisted that it had nothing to do with Xiaolan. That was why he was in a difficult position. If it had nothing to do with Xiaolan, then it could only be the other party's provocation. However, that woman was brought back by his father. If he didn't say anything and just dealt with her, then it would be a big problem. He also had no way of explaining it to his father, the head of the family. Thus, he could not make up his mind. "Yes." Shaolin and Yin Xian both nodded. They had seen the evidence in Lung Ruoxia's hands, so they were even more determined to not help Xiaolan this time. Otherwise, their husband and father would be in trouble. Seeing that his wife and daughter were so certain, Yin Ping naturally made up his mind. However, he still said to Shaolin apologetically, "Sister Lin, although I really want to help Lan, this time," he said. Before Yin Ping could finish, he was interrupted by Shaolin. "Brother Ping, you've already done enough. I can't let you be blamed by your clansmen for what happened to the Xiao family." She knew that Yin Ping's protection of Xiaohua's family over the years had caused many clansmen to be dissatisfied. The reason why Xiaolan dared to show off in the Yin family was also because she had her husband's support. Otherwise, how could she have such courage to not even put her own daughter in her eyes? Xiaolin was a very protective person. Originally, Xiaolan was her niece, and she doted on her. However, Xiaolan used her love to bully Xian. If she had not accidentally overheard the conversation between Xiaolan and the maidservant, she would probably still dote on Xiaolan as much as she did before. Ever since then, she found Xiaolan more and more unpleasant to the eye. Xiaolan was so obedient in front of her, but she was so arrogant in front of others. She didn't even care about her daughter. This was something she couldn't tolerate. Sister Lin, thank you for your understanding. Yin Ping was very touched because his wife was a sensible person. Over the years, although his wife had told him not to take care of Xiaohua's family, he still did his best to take care of them out of his love for his wife and the gratitude of Xiaohua's parents for raising his wife. He also knew that it was because of his protection that Xiaohua's family's status in the Xiao family was getting higher and higher. Even in the Yin family, no one dared to look down on them just because they were in-laws. At least on the surface, that was the case. He knew that some of the clan members were dissatisfied with Xiaohua and the others, but he ignored them. After all, they were his wife's relatives. Brother Ping, you've done enough for me. Xiaohua is already an adult, so let him handle the future matters by himself. Xiao Lin said bluntly. This was also what she meant. Good. I'll listen to you. Yin Ping said affectionately. Seeing her parents looking at each other affectionately in front of her, even forgetting about her existence as a daughter, Yin Xian was both happy and conflicted. She was happy that her parents had a good relationship, and there were no group of annoying half-brothers and sisters at home, but conflicted that in front of her parents, she had become heir. So, should she be more tactful and go to the side to play? Yin Xian thought. At the same time, Yin Xian didn't disturb her parents' love and quietly slipped away. By the time Xiao Lin and Yin Ping reacted, there were only the two of them left in the large courtyard. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, then went back to their rooms hand in hand. After staying with Xiao Lin for a while, Yin Ping unwillingly went to the courtyard of Xiaohua and the others. Chapter 1423. A Bet for Brother-in-Law. You've finally come. As soon as Yin Ping entered Xiao Lan's room, Ru Ping cried with snot and tears. Yin Ping saw this and frowned slightly, then said indifferently, What happened to you? Brother-in-law, you have to help our Lan. Was there any justice left in this world? They bullied my Lan, and now they want us to compensate for their mental loss. They were really bullying him. Do you think our Xiao family is easy to bully? Just as Yin Ping asked this, Ru Ping began to speak in rapid succession. If he had not heard his wife and daughter's conditions beforehand, he would have thought that they had gone too far. However, he knew very well that Xiaohua could afford the conditions. All these years, with his protection, Xiaohua had taken a lot of money from his family. Now they were crying and quarreling with him only because they wanted him to pay the compensation to save Xiao Lan. However, he had promised his wife and daughter that he would not interfere in this matter. Therefore, no matter how much they cried and quarreled, no matter how hard they tried, he would not care. It was all useless. After crying for a while, Ru Ping's heart sank when she saw that Yin Ping didn't say a word. Then she cried again. Brother-in-law, Xiao Lan is your most beloved niece, so her business is your business. You can't just stand by and do nothing. Are you done? Yin Ping, who was annoyed by the noise, roared. His roar scared Ru Ping so much that she didn't dare to cry anymore. Brother-in-law, you have to help Lan. Ru Ping sobbed and said softly, I've heard about this from Sister Lin and discussed it with the elders of the family. The elders think that this matter was caused by Lan. So you should deal with it yourself. Our Yin family will not interfere in this matter. Yin Ping brought out the elders and said, Brother-in-law, how could this be? Lan got into trouble in your Yin family. You also promised to give us an explanation. Ru Ping and Xiaohua quickly said, I said I'll give you an explanation because you told me this had nothing to do with Lan. However, as far as I know, this was caused by Lan. Shouldn't you tell me the truth? Yin Ping asked indifferently. Brother-in-law, you've watched Lan grow up. Don't you know what kind of child she is? How could she do such a thing? Ru Ping quibbled guiltily. You know better than me whether she can do it or not. Let's not talk about this now. You'd better quickly prepare the compensation that the other party wants. Saving Lan is more important. As for the other things, wait until Lan is better. You must gather all the items within 3 days. Otherwise, you will be responsible for the consequences. Yin Ping coldly reminded. Brother-in-law, they were the ones who injured Lan, and now Lan has fainted from the pain. Why should we compensate them? This was simply too unreasonable. This kind of thing couldn't be explained anywhere, right? Besides, even if there's a need for compensation, they should be the ones paying us. Ru Ping reminded him with dissatisfaction. The thing that can save Lan is in his hands now. He wants you to compensate him. Can you refuse? Yin Ping said unhappily. He really didn't want to ask if they were close, but he had to remind them. Brother-in-law, your Yin clan is one of the 8 great divine domains and has a transcendent status in the divine realm. No matter what identity that woman has, since she's currently living in the Yin clan, she'll have to obediently hand over the snake's saliva with just a word from you. We don't need to waste our time. Ru Ping said with a fawning smile. That woman won't listen to me. You'd better do as she says. I can't help you with this. Yin Ping didn't even think and rejected. Brother-in-law, what's the identity of that woman? Even you can't do anything to her? Ru Ping asked curiously. She wouldn't say that the girl had an ambiguous relationship with Yin Ping now, in case they annoyed him again. Then they wouldn't be able to come to the Yin family in the future. Yin Ping was their big backer, so they couldn't offend him. It's none of your business who she is. In short, don't mess with her. Prepare the compensation she asked for in 3 days. The most important thing is to save Lan. Yin Ping once again reminded him. Before knowing his father's intentions, he didn't dare to touch that girl. He had already said what he needed to say. As for whether Xiaohua's family would do as he said, that wasn't something he could control. 3 days later, Leng Ruoxue didn't receive compensation from the other party as she had hoped. However, she didn't seem to be in a hurry. She continued to lie on the deck chair leisurely and bask in the sun. Seeing this, Grape chuckled and teased. Miss, you've lost our bet. Chapter 1424. True Colors Revealed 1. Grape. I didn't lose and you didn't win. Don't forget who we've bet on paying the compensation. The Xiao family hasn't paid the compensation yet, and the Yin family hasn't paid for them either, so our bet isn't over yet. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. But miss, it's already been 3 days. Grape reminded. Yes, I asked them to send the compensation and the money to buy Small Fire's saliva within 3 days, but they refused to send it over, so we can't do anything about it. So, our bet isn't over yet. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Miss, do you mean that the bet will continue? Grape asked with some uncertainty. Why not continue? They'll definitely send the compensation over. It's just a matter of a few days. Leng Ruoxue said confidently. She could even guess the main reason why the other party was not willing to follow her instructions and send the compensation over. It was because Xiao Lan's injuries were showing signs of improvement. The truth was just as Leng Ruoxue had guessed. Ever since Leng Ruoxue had stated her conditions, Xiaohua and his wife had discussed for a long time. They had even looked for Yin Ping a few times, hoping that the other party would compensate them. However, Yin Ping had not relented. At the same time, Xiao Lan's injuries had also shown signs of improvement, so they had not thought much of it. In 3 days, the swelling on Xiao Lan's face had subsided, and the festering parts had begun to form knots. Her appearance was slowly recovering. Seeing this, Xiaohua and his wife were even more relieved. As for Xiao Lin's warning, they had completely forgotten about it. In the room, Xiao Lan sat in front of the dressing table. Looking at her restored appearance in the mirror, she was very happy. That damned snake and woman had caused him to suffer for so many days. He would definitely not let them off. Thinking of this, she summoned the maidservant and whispered something in her ear before the maidservant left the room. Lan, what did you just say to the maidservant? Sitting by the bed and looking at her daughter, Ru Ping asked curiously. It's nothing. I told her to send people to help me keep an eye on the 3 people from Bright Stream Garden. If there's a situation, immediately come and tell me. They caused me to suffer for so many days. If I let them go, would I still be Xiao Lan? Xiao Lan said viciously, a sinister look flashing across her beautiful face. Lan, after all, this is the Yin family. Because of you, we have already made them unhappy. If we cause any trouble at this time, it will not be good for us. Ru Ping reminded. Mother, I know what to do. You still don't trust me. Xiao Lan said in a spoiled manner. Of course I'm at ease with Lan. But your father. Ru Ping stopped halfway. for she suddenly remembered that Lan had just recovered from her injury. She didn't want to tell her about this, or she would be annoyed. Mother, are you trying to say that aunt and uncle are a little dissatisfied with you? Xiaolan said. Although she had been in a daze most of the time these past few days, she could still hear some of their conversations. Yup. Your father went to look for Xiaolin many times, but Xiaolin didn't see him, and Yinping didn't either. They had really gone too far. Is this what an elder sister and brother-in-law should do? As soon as she thought of the cold treatment she had received in the past 2 days, Ru Ping had a stomach full of complaints. Originally, it was fine if her daughter didn't know. She didn't intend to say it now to annoy her daughter. But since her daughter knew, there was no harm in saying it. Mother, you shouldn't be complaining. We should be thinking about how to make aunt and uncle treat us the same as before. After all, we can't do without their support. In contrast to Ru Ping's anger, Xiaolan was still very calm. She knew very well that without the support of her aunt and uncle, her family would never have the status they had today. Therefore, she was not willing to give up such a backer no matter what. Who asked her to still think about the position of the future mistress of the Yin family? Of course I know that. But they don't even want to see us now. Ru Ping couldn't help but mutter. That's why we should think about how we can salvage the situation. Mother, come with me to visit aunt and uncle later. My injuries have healed, so I have to thank them properly. They won't reject this reason again, right? Xiaolan said with a smile. What Lan said makes sense. Ru Ping nodded. Even if Xiaolin and Yinping were dissatisfied with the couple, they wouldn't refuse to see Lan. After all, Lan had been doted on since she was a child. With Lan around, their relationship would definitely improve, she thought confidently. After Xiaolan had dressed herself up in front of the dressing table, she took Ru Ping to the courtyard where Yinping and Xiaolin lived. As soon as they arrived at the courtyard, they heard a faint laughter coming from inside. Xiaolan immediately felt a little upset, because she was very familiar with this voice. It was her cousin's voice. She was laughing so happily now, so she must be chatting with her aunt. In the past, when she chatted with her aunt, she would also smile very happily. However, she didn't know when it started, but their relationship became colder and colder. Although she kept trying to please her aunt was always indifferent to her. This made her puzzled no matter how much she thought about it. She really couldn't remember what she did wrong to anger her aunt. After entering the courtyard, Xiaolan saw her aunt sitting on a stone chair in the garden. Yin Xian was talking to her in a very low voice, and she even laughed happily from time to time. Immediately, jealousy welled up in her heart. Why was Yin Xian so happy? All of this should have been hers. However, it was taken away by Yin Xian. No. She had to regain her position in her aunt's heart. She couldn't let Yin Xian be so proud. After she made up her mind, she quickly walked in front of Xiaolin and bowed respectfully. She then slowly said, Aunt, Lanner is here to visit you. Lanner is better? He should be resting in his room. How can he run around? Xiaolin looked at Xiaolan and said with a faint smile. In fact, what she meant was, don't run around the Yin family and don't come to her place. However, she knew that Xiaolan would definitely not understand the hidden meaning of her words. Even if she did, she would pretend not to know. Chapter 1425. True Colors Revealed 2. Thank you for your concern, Aunt. Your niece's body is fine now. Xiaolan stood next to Xiaolin very politely, and even tried to fill Xiaolin's cup with tea. However, the teapot was snatched away by Yin Xian. Yin Xian smiled. Cousin's body has just recovered. It's not good for her to overwork herself. Just leave this kind of rough work to me. Younger Biao's sister is thoughtful. Xiaolan said as she suppressed her anger. Lan, if there's nothing important, you can go back to your room and have a good rest. I won't be sending you off. Xiaolin said. Aunt, Lanner is here to see you. Xiaolan said in a slightly aggrieved tone, and a layer of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes. Yup, sister. Lan, Air's injury has just recovered, and she's in a hurry to see you. Look at how filial she is. Ru Ping also chimed in. I know that Lanner is filial. I appreciate it. However, Lan Er's body has just recovered, and I can't bear to see her overwork herself, so I'd better let her go back to her room to rest. Xiaolin said with concern. This? Ru Ping seemed to want to say something, but she was pulled back by Xiaolan, so she kept quiet. I'm really grateful for Aunt's care and concern. I'll go back first. I'll come back to see you in a few days. Xiaolan said in a very understanding manner. After she finished speaking, she bowed to Xiaolin, then turned around and left with her mother. Out of the yard, Ru Ping asked unwillingly, Lan, we're leaving just like that? What else can we do? Let's go and see Uncle. Xiaolan suggested. Ru Ping nodded, and then the two walked toward Yin Ping's study. However, when they reached the door of Yin Ping's study, they couldn't go in because the guard at the door told them that the substitute family head had important things to deal with and wouldn't see anyone. The two of them had no choice but to return to their own residence. In fact, Yin Ping didn't go to the study room today. He stayed in his room and watched his wife and daughter talking and laughing in the garden. When Xiaolan and her daughter came, he saw them, but he didn't go out. After they left, Yin Ping opened the door and walked into the garden. Father, you're finally willing to come out. Yin Xian, who was chatting with her mother, teased Yin Ping after seeing him. You little girl, you even dare to tease your own father. You're really looking for a beating. Yin Ping patted Yin Xian's head as a token gesture. Mother, look, father actually hit me. You have to make the decision for me. Yin Xian pouted her pink lips and complained. Bad girl, you're getting naughtier the older you get. Good hit. Xiaolin said with a smile. Mother, how can you forget your daughter when you're with her? Yin Xian's mouth pouted higher and higher. He pretended to be dissatisfied. Ha ha ha. Hearing Yin Xian's complaint, Yin Ping and Xiaolin couldn't help but laugh. You guys are too bad. I'm going to ignore you guys. I'm going to find my sister to play. Yin Xian stomped her feet, turned around, and ran out of the courtyard. After Yin Xian left, Yin Ping furrowed his brows and said, Sister Lin, has Lan Er's injury really recovered? He hadn't visited Xiaolan in the past few days, but he had heard that Xiaolan's injuries were slowly recovering. He didn't see it clearly in the room just now, so he asked. All right. However, that's only on the surface. Xiaolin sighed helplessly. Xiao Hua and his wife's short-sightedness had harmed Xiaolan, and Xiaolan had brought this upon herself. Therefore, she would have to bear this bitter fruit alone. Then can we trust Leng Ruox's words? Are you lying to us? Yin Ping still had some doubts. To be honest, he had never seen such a poison in his life. Not only could it heal on its own, but it was also said that if it relapsed, it would become more and more serious. If that was really the case, then wasn't this poison very terrifying and a little too vicious? I believe her. She has no reason to lie to us. If it's only for money, it's even more impossible. Besides, the poison in Xiaolan's body has indeed been cured, as she said. As for what will happen in the future, we can only take it one step at a time. Xiaolin said softly. Ai. We've watched Lan Er grow up, and I really don't want her to be like what you've said. So I'd rather that Leng Ruoxue was lying to us than let Lan Er suffer for the rest of her life. Yin Ping couldn't bear to say. Brother Ping, I understand how you feel, but we're not related to Leng Ruoxue in any way. She has no reason to lie to us about such a matter. Furthermore, I believe that Leng Ruoxue isn't that kind of person, even though I haven't spent much time with her. Xiaolin comforted her gently. Yes. Yin Ping nodded his head. He could choose not to believe Leng Ruoxue, but he had no choice but to believe his own wife. Brother Ping, I'm now a member of the Yin family, so I don't plan to care about the Xiao family's affairs anymore. What will happen to Xiao Hua's family in the future will be up to them. After thinking for a while, Xiaolin spoke in a serious tone. Sister Lin, I understand. Yin Ping gently pulled Xiaolin into his arms, but he didn't say anything. The two just kept hugging each other, and a faint warmth surrounded them. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue was still basking in the sun in the garden as usual. Yin Xian's voice could be heard from afar. Sister, I'm here to see you. Before they even entered Mingxi Garden, Yin Xian had already called out loudly. As soon as she ran into the garden of Mingxi Garden, She saw Lung Ruoxue lying comfortably on a recliner with two beautiful maidservants serving tea and water. Sister, your life is so comfortable. I'm starting to envy you, Yin Xian said with a hint of jealousy. Living in such a family clan, there was no way one could live as they wished. Therefore she was really envious, jealous, and hateful of Lung Ruoxue's carefreeness. If you want to, you can be as free as me. Lung Ruoxue opened her beautiful eyes and smiled. It's easier said than done. Yin Xian sighed and said helplessly, the key is whether you want to be carefree or not. How strong is your desire to be carefree? Lung Ruoxue reminded. Sister, of course I want to be like you, but I have too many things I can't let go of, so I can't do what you're doing. Yin Xian said with a bit of distress. Although she was still young, her future had already been arranged, and she had no choice. Chapter 1426. True Colors Revealed 3. Xin, you're still young. Don't think about these annoying things. What's the matter? Lung Ruoxue changed the topic. Sister, can't I just come and find you for no reason? Yin Xian pouted her little mouth and pretended to be dissatisfied. You haven't been here for a few days. There must be something going on today. Lung Ruoxue said with absolute certainty, a faint smile on her beautiful face. I'm really here for something today. Yin Xian felt a little embarrassed when she heard Lung Ruoxue's words. What's the matter? Speak. Lung Ruoxue's face was full of I was right. Sister, the wounds on Xiaolan's face have all healed, and she's no different from before. What's going on? Yin Xian asked, somewhat puzzled. Didn't I tell you? She has to take a pill to detoxify her injuries within 3 days. Otherwise, even if she recovers, it will relapse. Once it reoccurs, it will become more and more serious, and there will be no medicine to cure it. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. The Xiao family would not be willing to fork out the money for the next 3 days, so they would have to bear the consequences themselves. Sister, then when will her injury relapse? Yin Xian asked curiously. This is hard to say. However, it's best for her not to eat some stimulating food, or else the relapse will be faster. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Stimulating food? What do you mean, sister? Yin Xian asked with a face full of question marks. It's best not to eat fish and the like. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Arg. Xiaolan loves to eat fish, and she would eat it almost every 2 or 3 days. If I don't let her eat fish, she won't be able to take it. Yin Xian exclaimed. Oh, I think you can kindly remind her not to eat fish. Lung Ruoxue smiled indifferently as she suggested. Why? I don't want to. Yin Xian immediately objected. She couldn't wait for Xiaolan's injury to relapse. Who cared what she ate? She's your cousin after all. If you show her some concern, you can show your kindness. Sometimes we still have to act. Lung Ruoxue reminded. What if she doesn't eat fish anymore after I remind her? After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Yin Xian said in distress. She'll listen to you? If she listens to you and stops eating fish, the poison will take longer to take effect, but it's not impossible for it to relapse. What are you worried about? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. She could tell that Yin Xian did not just hate her cousin. In fact, the reason why she had asked Yin Xian to remind Xiaolan was not only to give Yin Xian a chance to show her affection, but also because she was sure that Miss Lan would not listen to Yin Xian. Instead, she would think that Yin Xian was deliberately trying to provoke her and make her remember the painful experience. Xiaolan was such a self-righteous and ungrateful person. No matter what she did, she would always think that she was not in the wrong and that the fault was always with others. If others' words or actions did not suit her, they would be going against her. She had seen people like Xiaolan before, but it was rare to see someone as outrageous as her. What my sister said makes sense. Since that's the case, I'll do her a favor. However, she won't be grateful to me. Yin Xian said, clearly aware of the situation. It's her business whether she's grateful or not. You just have to do what you should do. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Sister, you're so bad. But I like it. Yin Xian said softly. After she finished speaking, She chatted with Lung Ruoxue for a while more before leaving Mingxi Garden impatiently to return the favor. Watching Yin Xian's back, Grape asked in confusion, "Miss, why was little miss so happy? Isn't it just to deliver a letter? She's gloating over my misfortune." Lung Ruoxue said in understanding. She then instructed Lotus Seed. "Lotus, go and tell the guards outside the courtyard that there seems to be suspicious people near Bright Stream Garden, and have them pay more attention." Ever since the matter of Miss Lan had occurred, the head butler of the Yin clan had arranged for guards to be stationed outside Bright Stream Garden. In the name of protection, it was actually to prevent the same thing from happening again. Who asked her to have such a powerful little snake? "Yes, miss," Lotus Seed replied. After bowing, she turned and left. "Miss, how do you know that there are suspicious people outside?" Grape's face was full of admiration. Miss didn't even leave the house and still knew that someone was secretly monitoring her outside. She was really amazing. "Weren't you the one who told me?" Lung Ruoxue raised her eyebrows and teased. "Did I?" Grape's face was full of question marks. She couldn't remember saying such words to Miss. Besides, she didn't have any evidence. "Of course I do." Lung Ruoxue nodded with certainty. The truth was Grape had never told her about it. She could only tell from Grape's face. Who asked this girl to go out once and come back with a long face? It made it impossible for Lung Ruoxue to pretend that she did not see it. Moreover, she did not think that it was a big deal to be monitored outside. The people sent by the head butler were also monitoring her brazenly. "I've forgotten," Grape said gloomily. "It's okay, everyone has times when they forget things." Lung Ruoxue was laughing in her heart, but she still spoke in a comforting tone. At this time, Lotus Seed walked in from outside, accompanied by the guard outside Bright Stream Garden. In the guard's hand was a short, ordinary-looking man. The man's face was full of fear and guilt. "Miss, we've caught him," Lotus Seed said happily. "Oh, you've caught him so quickly?" Lung Ruoxue was a little surprised. She really didn't know if it was because the Yin family's guards were highly efficient, or if the person monitoring them was too stupid. How could they be caught so easily? She didn't feel a sense of accomplishment. "Miss, he's too stupid, hiding in the tree in broad daylight, and wearing such eye-catching clothes. It's impossible for us to pretend not to see him." Lotus Seed helplessly pointed at the man's white clothes. Pfft. Hearing Lotus Seed's words, Grape could not help but laugh. AI. It seemed that the other party was really too stupid. Lung Ruoxue was also very helpless about this. So the other party had sent this person here to add to their laughingstock. Chapter 1427. True Colors Revealed 4. Let him go. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was dripping with cold sweat as she spoke indifferently. "Miss, how can we let him go so easily?" Lotus Seed was somewhat puzzled. Didn't Miss send her out to catch this person? Now that they've been caught, why are they letting them go without even asking? "If we don't let him go, are we still going to let him stay for dinner?" Lung Ruoxue reminded. "Then let him go." Lotus Seed understood. Miss was disdainful of this person for being useless. When the guard heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he gave a slight bow and left with the man who was so frightened that his face had turned pale. After they left, Grape could not help but ask, "Miss, do you know who sent that person? Do you still need to ask?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. "But it's also possible that they were sent by someone else from the Yin family." Grape reminded. Because of Xiaolan's incident, many people in the Yin family knew about the existence of the young lady, and were very curious about her identity. So wasn't it normal to send people to monitor her? If the Yin family wants to know my identity, they can just ask your head butler. However, they will not be interested in my every move. Lung Ruoxue was very certain. Then what did Xiaolan want to do by sending people here? Right now, she can't enter Bright Stream Garden, and the young lady can't leave. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Grape frowned and said in a conflicted manner, "Why are you thinking about this? No matter what her goal is, she will only reap what she sowed in the end." After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she lay back on the recliner and closed her eyes. At the same time, Yin Xian also went to Xiaolan's residence. In the room, Xiaolan indifferently looked at Yin Xian and coldly said, Xian, or why did you suddenly think of coming to see me? Back in the garden, you clearly didn't want to see me. Cousin, you're right. I don't want to see you. However, I've received some news that has something to do with you, so I'm here to tell you. We're relatives after all. Yin Xian said with a smile. What news? Xiaolan was a little puzzled. She didn't think that her cousin, who had hated her since she was young, would tell her anything useful. Cousin, didn't uncle and auntie tell you that your injuries are only temporary? ITLL relapse after a while. And ITLL get more and more serious each time? Yin Xian asked curiously. In fact, she knew that her uncle and aunt wouldn't tell Xiaolan about this, so she asked this on purpose. What are you talking about? Are you cursing me? As expected, Xiaolan said angrily after hearing Yin Xian's words. Cousin, I'm telling the truth. How could I curse you? Originally, your injury could have been completely healed, but unfortunately, uncle and aunt can't bear to part with money, so I'm afraid that there's no way to detoxify your poison forever. However, as long as you don't eat stimulating food, the speed of the relapse should be slower. Yin Xian said with a faint smile. Don't you talk nonsense in front of me. I know you're jealous of me, so you're trying to make me angry, right? I won't fall for your trick. Yin Xian, you're just a little girl. How could you possibly win against me? Aunt and uncle love me the most. If I tell them these words, which side do you think they will stand on? After calming down a little, Xiaolan suppressed her anger and said, although Yin Xian's words made her very angry, she could not be fooled by Yin Xian. She would not believe Yin Xian's words. Cousin, since you don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. However, I still have to tell you, don't eat fish and other stimulating food. Otherwise, your face will still rot. Yin Xian reminded him again, but she was secretly laughing in her heart. Her sister was right. Xiaolan didn't believe her. Pa. As soon as Yin Xian's voice fell, her lovely face was slapped, and half of her face immediately swelled up. At this time, Xiaolan's door was suddenly opened. Seeing Xiaolin Yinping and her parents appear in her room, Xiaolan was stunned. She even forgot to take back her hand that was raised in the air. Aunt, uncle. You guys, why are you guys here? After coming back to her senses, Xiaolan quickly withdrew her hand and asked with an embarrassed expression. She didn't expect to be caught red-handed when she hit Yin Xian. What should she do? Her mind turned quickly and she was extremely anxious. Chapter 1428. As a Witness 1. We're here to see you lander, but we didn't expect to see this. Xiaolin said coldly. Then, she walked to Yin Xian and said with a distressed look, Xianer, poor child. You don't have to come and see her anymore. Aunt, this is all a misunderstanding. It's none of my business. It was younger cousin's sister who provoked me, so I accidentally hit her. After Xiaolan heard Xiaolin's words, she quickly explained. However, it might have been better if she didn't explain. After she explained, Xiaolin became even angrier. Misunderstanding? You dared to hit her for a mere misunderstanding. If it wasn't a misunderstanding, wouldn't you have killed her? Xiaolin said angrily. She knew that Lan always bullied her daughter in private, but she had never found any evidence. She didn't expect to catch it this time. How could she let go of such a rare opportunity? Therefore, from the beginning, she didn't plan to let Xiaolan off easily. Aunt, how would I dare? I know that my younger cousin is your precious. How would I dare to bully her? I was really angry this time, and I made a mistake. Aunt, uncle, please don't be angry with me. I'll apologize to my younger cousin. Xiaolan's voice was choked with sobs, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. After she finished speaking, she knelt on the ground with a plop and looked up at Xiaolin and Yin Xian. Cousin, please forgive me. I didn't mean it. Xiaolan said to Yin Xian. Cousin, what are you doing? Hurry up and get up. I can't afford it. Seeing this, Yin Xian also quickly said and bent down to help Xiaolan up, but Xiaolan refused to stand up. Yin Xian had no choice but to give up. However, she wouldn't let Xiaolan put on a show of self-pity. Humph. Did he think that he would be fine after hitting her and kneeling down? How could it be so easy? This time, She wanted to settle both old and new scores. Thinking of this, Yin Xian said with a heavy heart, "Cousin, are you forcing us to forgive you? Although you've always bullied me in private in the past and even hit me this time, I really don't blame you. Who asked you to be in a bad mood? I can understand, but you've already beaten us. If you force us like this, even if we forgive you this time, we'll still feel uncomfortable. Why do you have to do this? What's more, I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you this with good intentions, but not only did you not believe me, you even hit me." Yin Xian's cute face was full of grievances. "Xian, or what are you going to tell her?" Shaolin heard Yin Xian's words and quickly asked. Before, when they had just walked into the room, they had heard the sound of a slap coming from inside. So they had quickly pushed the door open and entered, so they were not very clear about what had happened. "Didn't I go to see my sister? She told me that cousin's injury would relapse again, but if she ate stimulating food, the relapse would happen even faster. After I heard this, I immediately came to tell cousin, but she didn't believe me. She even said that I was cursing her. Then he hit me." Yin Xian also said with tears in her eyes. "Lan, was what Xianer said true? This is the misunderstanding you were talking about?" Shaolin glared at him and questioned him loudly. "Aunt, my injury has just recovered and younger Biao's sister came to say such things. If it was anyone else, they would be angry." Shaolin explained in a low voice. "Yup, sister. No one can stay calm when it comes to this kind of thing. Lanner didn't mean it, so please forgive her." Ru Ping tried to smooth things over. She was afraid that this matter would anger Shaolin and her husband. Without their protection, the Xiao family would step on them. They were used to being arrogant in the Xiao family. Without their support, the Xiao family would take the opportunity to hit them when they were down. "Aunt, cousin, I know it's my fault this time. I wasn't calm enough. Cousin, beat me up to vent your anger. As long as you're willing to forgive me for my unintentional mistake." Shaolan said with a sincere expression. "Cousin, if you think that I can make up for your unintentional mistake by hitting you back, then you're gravely mistaken. If a dog bites you, can you bite the dog back?" Yin Xian said with a faint smile. Since Shaolan kept saying that it was an unintentional mistake, then she could only treat Shaolan as a dog. However, wasn't this a little sorry for the cute dog? Her heart was filled with regret. Xianer's right. This matter isn't about you slapping Xian and Xian, or returning a slap to you. We already know the cause of this matter. And Lan I also want to tell you that everything Xian has said to you is true. I've said these words to your parents before, but they don't believe me and even hope that they'll be lucky. As a result, you can only bear the consequences yourself." Shaolin's tone was very cold. After that, she took Yin Xian and turned to leave Shaolan's room. "Aunt, sister." Shaolan and Xiaohua shouted in unison, but Shaolin didn't even turn around. "Brother-in-law, look at this, it's just a fight between children. Please don't take it to heart." Xiaohua saw that Yin Ping was still there, and said with an embarrassed expression, "What a good fight between children. Lan, Xianer said you used to bully her in private, is that true?" Yin Ping asked with a cold smile. "Uncle, how could this be possible? You also know how willful younger Biao sister is." Shaolan said nervously. She didn't even dare to look at Yin Ping. If it was before today, she might have been able to deny it. However, after she was caught red-handed hitting Yin Xian, she wasn't so confident. Seeing Shaolan's guilty expression, Yin Ping already knew what was going on. He never thought that the Shaolan who was always so well-behaved and sensible in front of him would always bully his daughter in private. He still remembered that every time Xianer complained to him, he would always side with Shaolan. Now that he thought about it, he was already so old, but he was still being played around by a little girl. It was really embarrassing. Besides, he also felt a little sorry for his daughter. Thinking of this, Yin Ping said, "Lan Er's injury doesn't seem to be a big deal now, so you can pack your things and go back to the Xiao family tomorrow. Don't come here anymore." "Brother-in-law, how could you do this? Are you trying to drive us away? Don't forget, you said you would give us an explanation." When Ru Ping heard that they had to leave, she immediately roared in dissatisfaction. Shaolan, on the other hand, didn't say a word and kept crying. Chapter 1429. As a witness, too. What kind of explanation do you want from me? Haven't I taken enough care of you all these years? But how did you repay me? I haven't even gotten an explanation for bullying my daughter in private. Don't you think you should give us an explanation? I don't think you need to wait until tomorrow. Pack your things and leave now. After Yin Ping finished speaking, he turned around and left without looking back. After receiving Yin Ping's orders, the Yin family's guards personally watched as Xiao Hua and his family of 3 packed up their things and personally sent them out of the Yin family's main residence. After Yin Ping left Xiao Lan's room, he went straight back to his own residence. Seeing that Yin Xian and Xiao Lin were talking and laughing in the room, and their mood was not affected, Yin Ping's heart was finally at ease. Seeing that her daughter had really grown up, she would probably be crying right now if it was the old her. Xian, how is it? Does your face still hurt? Yin Ping had just stepped into the room when he asked with a face full of concern. I'm fine now, father. Mother has applied some medicine on my face. Yin Xian said with a smile, obviously in a good mood. What are you two talking about? Why are you smiling so happily? Yin Ping saw that the swelling on his daughter's face had indeed subsided, so he changed the topic. I don't know where Xian heard this joke from, but she's telling it to me right now. Xiao Lin said with a smile. Oh, Xian should tell father about it too. Yin Ping said. Father, that joke doesn't suit you. By the way, how's uncle's family doing? Yin Xian asked curiously. Xiao Lin had been caught red-handed when she hit her, so her father wouldn't let them off easily, right? I've already invited them back to the Xiao family. They don't have to come here anymore. Yin Ping said indifferently. After he finished, he looked at Xiao Lin with some worry and said, Sister Lin won't blame me, right? Brother Ping, why would I blame you? You've taken care of them enough, but they're not satisfied and want more. Besides, I know that Lan has bullied Xian a lot in the past, but Lan is too scheming, and I've never been able to find any evidence against her. This time, even if Brother Ping doesn't chase them away, I can't tolerate them anymore. Xiao Lin was still a little angry. After she finished speaking, she glared at her daughter resentfully. This girl had just told her that she could have avoided Xiao Lan's slap, but she deliberately did not do so to leave evidence. Sister Lin, since you knew that Lan bullied Xian a lot, why didn't you tell me? Yin Ping grumbled. Father, I've complained to you a lot when I was young. However, you've never sided with me, and Mother doesn't have any evidence. You also dote on Xiao Lan so much, so even if we tell you, you won't believe us. Yin Xian reminded her with an evil smile. She knew her father too well. No matter what her father did, he would always pay attention to evidence. Therefore, if she wanted him to stand on her side, she must have evidence. Otherwise, it would be useless no matter what she said. And Xiao Lan's previous efforts would all be in vain because of the irrefutable evidence this time. Xiao Lan would probably be very angry. When she thought of this, her mood became extremely excited. She felt that the slap was worth it. In the past, I was wrong. Who would have thought that Xiao Lan, who looked so well behaved on the outside, would always bully my daughter in private? Yin Ping said with an embarrassed face. Father, I'm not the only one she's bullying. Many clansmen of the Yin family have been bullied by her. But those clansmen don't have a father who is the current patriarch or a brother who is the young master, so they all dare not speak out. Yin Xian said honestly. This kind of thing won't happen again. Father will never let them come to our house again. Yin Ping promised. Hee. This is great. Yin Xian nodded happily. She would never see Xiao Lan at home again, and this fact made her feel particularly good. Just as Yin Xian's family of 3 was chatting, a guard suddenly walked in and whispered a few words to Yin Ping. After Yin Ping heard this, his face immediately became ugly. After the guard reported, he turned and left. Seeing this, Xiao Lin and Yin Xian both asked in confusion. What happened? Xiao Hua's family followed Yin Bang to the second branch's courtyard to stay. Yin Ping sighed. What? What did Xiao Hua and the others want to do? Don't they know what the second household is planning? After Xiao Lin heard this, she growled angrily. The Yin family's first branch and second branch had been at odds for a long time. The first branch was led by his husband, while the second branch was led by Yin Bang. Although Yin Bang was a concubine's son, he had always believed that his aptitude and ability were no less than his husband's. Why should his husband be the substitute head of the family while he could only obey because of his lower status? This fact made Yin Bang rather angry. She had been secretly trying to make things difficult for her husband. Xiao Hua and the others were aware of this, but now they were involved with them. Suddenly, Xiao Lin felt a deep disappointment in her heart. She felt that she had raised an ungrateful wolf who had betrayed her husband. Mother, they've always been that kind of people. It's not worth it to be angry with them. Don't be angry and harm your health. Yin Xian saw her mother's expression and knew that her mother was angry. However, her uncle's family was not sensible people and her uncle could not make any decisions at home, so she was not surprised at all that they could do such a thing. Yup. Sister Lin. Don't be angry. Although Yin Bang always opposed me, Xiaohua probably has no value to them. The only thing they can do is to sow discord between you two, but after Xiao Lan hit Yin Xian and I kicked them out, there's no longer any friendship between us. Xiaohua's family probably hates us because of this, so even if Yin Bang wanted to destroy it, he wouldn't have the chance. Yin Ping consoled her in a gentle voice. In truth, when he first heard the news, he had felt very uncomfortable. Although he had chased Xiaohua and the others out, and even told them not to come back here in the future, if Xiaohua really had some difficult things to do and needed his help, he would still help them. After all, he was his wife's brother. He just didn't think that Xiaohua and the others would be so disappointing to get together with Yin Bang. And Yin Bang's goal was obvious. Chapter 1430. As a Witness 3. Brother Ping. This was their fault to begin with, and it was fine if they didn't know how to repent. But how could they get together with Yin Bang and the others? Don't they know what kind of person Yin Bang is? Xiao Lin said with disappointment. Sister Lin, since things have come to this, there's no point in getting angry. We can only take one step at a time. I hope they don't do anything that can't be undone. Yin Ping said helplessly. I hope he can take care of himself. Xiao Lin sighed. Father, Mother, let's not think about these unhappy things. What will happen to Uncle's family in the future can only depend on them. We can't always help them like this. They're not kids anymore, they know what they're doing. Yin Xian also reminded. Xianer has really grown up, to actually be able to say such a thing. Hearing Yin Xian's words, Xiao Lin couldn't help but smile. Yup, Xianer is much more sensible than before. Yin Ping also laughed. Father, Mother, I've always been so sensible. I'm not going to talk to you guys, I'm going to play with my sister. Yin Xian said, a little embarrassed. After that, she turned around and ran away. Looking at Yin Xian's back, the two looked at each other and smiled. Yin Xian was like a happy bird as she flew into Mingxi Garden. Sister, I'm here to see you. Yin Xian shouted excitedly. Lung Ruoxue, who was napping on the deck chair, lifted her eyelids and looked at the happy Yin Xian. She smiled and said, if I didn't remember wrongly, Xianer seemed to have left not too long ago. Why did she come back so quickly? Sister, don't you welcome me? Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Yin Xian said with an aggrieved expression. You are the Yin family's most pampered little princess. How could I not welcome you? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she teased. That's more like it. Sister, I'm here to tell you the good news. Yin Xian's face was mysterious. Could it be that Miss Lan's injuries have relapsed? It can't be that fast. Lung Ruoxue guessed suspiciously. Of course not. When I listened to elder sister's words and went to tell her about this, she was so embarrassed that she hit me. My parents happened to see her, so my father asked Uncle's family to leave the Yin family. Yin Xian said with a proud smile. And then? Lung Ruoxue waited for her reply. Who knew that when they were leaving, one of my uncles, Yin Bang, would invite them into his courtyard? When Yin Xian thought of this, she became a little distressed. Although they didn't want their uncle to be with Yin Bang, they couldn't go to Yin Bang's yard to chase him away, so they could only let nature take its course. That Yin Bang has a conflict with you? Lung Ruoxue said. Yes. Yin Xian nodded. In fact, it was all her ancestors' fault. Her grandfather, who was many years older than her, had married too many women. That was why there were so many descendants, and it was so troublesome. However, she only dared to complain in her heart, and did not dare to say it out loud. Don't worry, it should be fine. Lung Ruoxue consoled. I hope so. Yin Xian sighed, her face filled with helplessness. Little girl, you've learned how to sigh at such a young age. Lung Ruoxue laughed as she scolded. Sister, I'm really worried. Although uncle looks mighty outside, he has to listen to aunt and cousin when he's home. So, I'm afraid that uncle will be affected by those two women and hurt my mother. Yin Xian said worriedly. Don't look at how she pretended not to care in front of her mother, but in reality, she was still very worried, mainly because she was afraid that her mother would be hurt. Madam Yin is not as weak as you think. Don't worry. Lung Ruoxue laughed. This little girl was really too concerned. In her opinion, Xiao Lin was a successful career woman. She wouldn't be defeated so easily. I hope I'm just too nervous. Yin Xian said, a little embarrassed. This is normal. Lung Ruoxue admired Yin Xian's protective heart towards her mother. Just as the two of them were chatting, a few guards suddenly walked in from outside the courtyard. When they saw Yin Xian, the guards bowed respectfully and said to Lung Ruoxue, Miss Lung, right? Grape and Lotus Seed have violated the Yin family's rules and are now in prison. We are under orders to bring you to be a witness. What witness? The grapes and the lotus seeds are just going to take the things your head butler gave me. What kind of family rules have they broken? Lung Ruoxue sneered as she questioned him. He was really trying to frame her. No wonder Grape and Lotus Seed had not returned after such a long time. They had been locked up. Who sent you? Don't you know that elder sister can't leave Bright Stream Garden? Hearing the guard's words, Yin Xian also quickly asked. She was very sure that this order was not given by her father. Fortunately, she was here, otherwise, her sister would definitely misunderstand her father. It was the elders who gave the order. The guard replied. Which elders? Yin Xian asked. Although the major matters of the family needed to be discussed with the elders before the final decision could be made, the daily affairs of the family were basically decided by her father, and a small matter like arresting a few clansmen who had violated the family rules didn't need the elders to come forward at all. What's more, this order was given by the elders, so did it mean that they had hidden this order from her father? Thinking of this, she was even angrier. These people clearly didn't put her father in their eyes. This was preposterous. This order was given by Elder Bang and the others. The guard saw that Yin Xian was a little angry and did not dare to hide it. Moreover, this kind of thing could not be hidden. Yin Bang. He was really bold. Does my father know about this? Yin Xian said angrily. She didn't think that Yin Bang would come looking for trouble so quickly. I don't know if the acting clan head knows. The guard quickly said. He was not willing to become cannon fodder in the battle between the direct descendants of the Yin family, so he was quite cooperative with Yin Xian. Then do you know that Grandpa Patriarch doesn't allow elder sister to leave Bright Stream Garden? Yin Xian asked again. I don't know about that. I'm only here on orders to invite Miss Lung to be a witness. I hope Miss Xian won't make things difficult for me. The guard said with a bitter face. He didn't expect Miss Xian to be here. He was afraid that he couldn't complete his mission. If you can take me out of Bright Stream Garden, I don't mind being a witness. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently, her tone turning colder. Miss Lung, we're here to invite you because we're confident in our chances. Please come with us. The guard spoke and kept his head lowered, not daring to look at Lung Ruoxue. If that's the case, then I'll go with you. Lung Ruoxue stood up from the deck chair and was about to leave with the guards when she was pulled back by Yin Xian. Sister, don't go with them yet. I'll go and tell father. Yin Xian said, a little worried. Don't worry. I'm only going to be a witness. That elder Bang won't do anything to me. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. She was getting tired of waiting for Miss Lan to make her move these few days. It was a good time to go out for a walk and stretch her muscles. Besides, she wanted to show some people that Canary had a temper too. Lead the way. Lung Ruoxue turned around and said to the guards. Miss Lung, please. The guard said solicitously. When they had come, Elder Bang had said that they had to be polite to this Miss Lung and not use violence. Seeing Lung Ruoxua leave with the guard, Yin Xian was stunned. After she regained her senses, she remembered that she had to quickly tell her father about this. Immediately after, she ran out of Bright Stream Garden. Lung Ruoxua followed the guards out of Mingxi Garden's main entrance without any hindrances. When she saw this scene, she could not help but chuckle in her heart. It seemed like Elder Bang had long prepared for this. This was even better. She did not like opponents who were too weak, and she hoped that Elder Bang would not disappoint her. The guards led Lung Ruoxua to a side courtyard and left her there before turning to leave. Lung Ruoxua went with the flow and found a place to sit down. Her beautiful eyes kept on sizing up the scenery in the courtyard. This courtyard couldn't be compared to the Mingxi garden she lived in, because this was clearly an abandoned courtyard. Other than a few stone benches, there were only some trees and weeds that weren't very dense. Miss Lung is really calm. All of a sudden, a slightly teasing voice rang in Lung Ruoxua's ears. When she heard the voice, she turned around to look at the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice was a man who looked to be in his early 30s. The man was very handsome and tall, but his pair of slightly dark eyes destroyed his overall temperament. This man had some similarities with the master of the Yin family, so it was not difficult to guess the relationship between the two. If she had not guessed wrongly, this person should be the Elder Bang that the guard had mentioned. Furthermore, this Elder Bang had the strength of a god king, as expected of someone from the 8 great divine regions. Miss Lung, have you seen enough? Are you satisfied with me? When Yin Bang saw that Lung Ruoxua was only sizing him up without saying anything, he couldn't help but tease her. What a pity. His father had taken a fancy to this woman. Otherwise, he would have definitely snatched her away. However, he would not dare to touch his father's woman even if he had 10 guts. Therefore, he could only satisfy his craving with his eyes. Who are you? Lung Ruoxua ignored the teasing in the other party's words and asked, even though she knew what was going on. I'm Yin Bang, one of the elders of the Yin family. Yin Bang introduced himself. Oh, didn't you say that you wanted me to be a witness? This is the Yin clan's prison? Lung Ruoxua had only just heard of Yin Bang's name from Xian Er's mouth when she was playing dumb. To see him in person so quickly, this member of the Yin family really couldn't help but think about him. How could this be the Yin clan's prison? Yin Bang said helplessly. Since this isn't a prison cell, why did those guards bring me here? You clearly told me to be a witness, but I don't know what rule Grape and Lotus Seed have broken. And you still want me to be a witness? Lung Ruoxua asked curiously. It was my idea to invite Miss Lung here. Before we go to the prison, I have a few words to say to Miss Lung. Yin Bang said with a smile. If you have something to say, please speak. Lung Ruoxua suppressed the impatience in her heart and replied politely. Even though she did not know what Yin Bang was up to, she was certain that it was not something good. Otherwise, why would he have sneakily asked someone to bring her to such a remote courtyard? This fellow clearly had no good intentions. She was on high alert. Chapter 1431. You're sitting in my seat 1. It's like this. Grape and Lotus Seed stole the things that the clan had given to young Lady Lung, and were caught by us. However, those 2 maidservants stubbornly said that you gave them. Therefore, I specially sent someone to invite young Lady Lung to be a witness. I know that young Lady Lung is kind-hearted. Although they have been serving you these days, I don't hope that young Lady Lung will shield them. Otherwise, I can't explain it to the clan. If everyone in the clan follows suit in the future, wouldn't the Yin clan be in chaos? Yin Bang said, his heart aching. What did they steal? Lung Ruoxua had a puzzled look on her face. Based on her understanding of the 2 maidservants, they shouldn't be such people. Besides, even if they really liked something, they didn't have to steal it. Basically, the things that they took from the head butler, the things that they didn't need, were all given to them. When the time comes, Miss Lung will know. The reason why I told Miss Lung these things in private was that I hoped that Miss Lung would not cover up for them out of goodwill. If that were the case, I would not be able to answer to my clansmen. Yin Bang reminded with a smile. Don't worry. If they really did take something I don't know, I won't cover for them. Lung Ruoxue promised. She finally understood what Elder Yin was trying to say. He was telling her not to cover up for them. However, this fellow was not willing to reveal what they had taken. Wasn't this too strange? Since Miss Lung has said so, I am relieved. Yi Bang said. Since Elder Yin is at ease, can you take me to see my 2 maidservants now? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Of course. This way please, Miss Lung. Yin Bang invited him in a gentlemanly manner, and the two of them walked towards the prison cell. When they arrived at the prison cell, Lung Ruoxue did not even look at Yin Bang and walked straight in. The Yin family's prison cell was located to the north of the Yin family's main residence. The prison cell could be considered clean, but there was still a faint smell. There weren't many people locked up in the cell at the moment. Lung Ruoxue didn't ask Yin Bang where grape and lotus seed were locked up. She searched from the beginning. After searching through a few cells, she only found traces of grape and lotus seed when she reached the 10th cell. Grapes and lotus seeds. Lung Ruoxue looked at the 2 men who were tied to the wooden pole and covered in wounds. The anger in her heart was instantly ignited. Damn it, who was the one who hit them? Before things were clear, they had been beaten to such a state. At this time, lotus seed had already fainted, and grape only had a trace of consciousness left. The clothes on the 2 of them had long been torn and tattered, and the skin on their bodies was not in good condition. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's voice, Grape endured the pain and opened his eyes that were swollen like peaches. He called out weakly, "Miss, what are you doing here? Quickly leave this place. This is a trap." After that, Grape also fainted. When Lung Ruoxue heard Grape's words, she turned around and looked at Yin Bang, who had already walked to her side. She said with a half-smile, "Elder Bang, why did you beat up the 2 maidservants who served me? What crime did they commit to deserve such a heavy punishment? Men, who did this?" When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxue's question, he hurriedly called for the guards and asked. To be honest, he didn't order anyone to beat up the 2 maidservants. Therefore, after seeing their injuries, he was extremely puzzled. He didn't want to be misunderstood by this beauty in front of him, so he naturally had to clarify everything. It should be Miss Lan. The guard said with a little fear. The 2 maidservants had suffered such heavy injuries, and as guards, they had failed in their duties. Therefore, they were very afraid that they would be punished, so they naturally did not hide the truth for Xiao Lan. "Miss Lan? Could it be that young Lady Lan's authority in the Yin clan is so great that she can enter and leave any place she wants, and can beat the Yin clan's maidservants as she wishes?" Lung Ruoxue sneered. This was clearly incited by someone. At this time, that person still dared to play dumb in front of her. Did he really think she was a 3-year-old child? Lung Ruoxue's sharp questioning made Yin Bang break out in a cold sweat. He knew that Xiao Lan had used his name to enter the room. However, he had warned Xiao Lan not to act rashly before he had convicted the 2 maidservants. He did not expect that Xiao Lan's desire for revenge was so strong that she had ignored his warning and sneaked into the prison. She had even beaten them up so badly. Now he had no way of explaining it to the elders. This was big trouble. At this time he really hated Xiao Lan, that woman who failed in her work and was good at causing trouble. She was really a big-breasted but brainless person. "Elder Bang, do you have nothing to say? Although I'm not from the Yin clan, these 2 maidservants were arranged for me by your clan head, so they're my people. Now that you've seriously injured my maidservants without even knowing the reason, you must give me an explanation for this matter. Or rather, are you trying to force a confession out of me?" Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. "Miss Lung, I really don't know why Xiao Lan would come here." Yin Bang explained guiltily. Now that everyone in the Yin family knew that Xiao Lan was staying with him, his words were not very convincing, especially under Lung Ruoxue's burning gaze. His heart felt weak. This woman seemed to be even more beautiful and soul-stirring when she was angry. "You don't know? I've heard that Elder Bang has brought Xiao Lan's family to his own home. And now you're telling me you don't know?" Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh. Her beautiful face was filled with mockery. I also saw that they were quite pitiful after being chased out by the acting clan head, so I kindly took them in temporarily. I really didn't expect Xiaolan to come to the prison and beat up these two maidservants. Yin Bang racked his brain for an excuse, so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Elder Bang is really kind-hearted. I wonder if there are any homeless people in the divine realm. Why don't you bring them all to live with you, Elder Bang? Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. How can this be the same? Yin Bang said, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. What's different? Xiaolan's family didn't seem to need Elder Bang's help, right? If Elder Bang is so enthusiastic about helping them, then we should do even more for the other homeless people. Lung Ruoxue said with a light smile. Chapter 1432. You're sitting in my seat, too. Xiaolan's family is in-laws after all, and those homeless people have nothing to do with me. Yin Bang explained helplessly. In-law? They don't seem to be your in-laws, since it has nothing to do with you. Yet you're still so enthusiastic. You must be a kind-hearted person. In that case, help more homeless people. Lung Ruoxue suggested. Miss Lung. Yin Bang was about to explain, but before he could, he was interrupted by a furious roar. Yin Bang, were you the one who ordered the arrest? Yin Ping's tall figure appeared at the door of the cell. After seeing Yin Ping, he immediately shouted. When Lung Ruoxue and Yin Bang heard the roar, they looked in the direction of the sound at the same time. Yin Bang's face darkened while Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with curiosity. Sister, this guy didn't do anything to you, right? At this moment Yin Xian, who was behind Yin Ping, ran to Lung Ruoxue's side and held her hand to check it up and down, as if she was afraid that Yin Bang would hurt her. Lung Ruoxue could not help but laugh when she saw this. It was already good enough that she did not bully others. That would give others the chance to bully her. Shuer, are you all right? Xiaolin also walked over and asked with concern. Madam Yin. Xian, I'm fine. Elder Bang was quite polite to me. Lung Ruoxue's tone was gentle, unlike how she had been aggressive towards Yin Bang. That's good. Xiaolin and Yin Xian nodded in relief. Then, they turned to glare at Yin Bang and said fiercely, Elder Bang, what are you trying to do? Mistress, it's not that I want to do anything, but these two maidservants have violated the clan rules, so I had no choice but to order people to lock them up. I invited Miss Lung here only to let her be a witness. Why are you so nervous? Yin Bang said with a smile. Why didn't I, the acting head of the family, know that they broke the family rules? Yin Ping walked over and asked coldly. This matter was decided at the last minute after a discussion between several elders. If the acting patriarch has any questions, you can ask the other elders. I'm just an executor. Yin Bang said, pushing the matter away. Why don't the elders need to go through me, the acting master, for their decision? Are you guys not putting me in your eyes? Yin Ping half squinted his eyes and said with slight displeasure. Acting patriarch, this is only a small matter. Why are you so calculative? Yin Bang said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I can see from this small matter that you don't care about the acting family head at all. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. Miss Lung, of course we can't take the acting family head seriously. We do take him seriously. Yin Bang said, holding back his anger. He was furious that Lung Ruoxue had added fuel to the fire. However, he had no choice but to hold it in because Lung Ruoxue was the master's subordinate. Oh really? How come I didn't feel it? Clan head Yin Dai, Grape and Lotus Seed are now considered my people, but Elder Bang locked them up in prison without any explanation, and even had people beat them until they were on the verge of death. Shouldn't your Yin clan give me an explanation for this? Lung Ruoxue turned her gaze towards Yin Ping. These two maidservants are from our Yin clan. How could they be your people? When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he quickly reminded her. Didn't I tell you that they were sent to me by your master? Of course, they're my people. However, when you arrested them, you didn't ask for my permission. You even ordered them to be tortured and forced to confess. You have to give me an explanation for this. Otherwise, you'll have to go to your master to judge. Lung Ruoxue threatened calmly. I didn't ask anyone to hit them. Yin Bang quibbled. You didn't order anyone to beat them, so how dare the guards let Xiaolan in? Xiaolan now has you backing her up, so I don't think those guards would dare to offend you. Lung Ruoxue asked with a look of understanding. Xiaolan hit them? Yin Ping's eyes followed the prison door and looked in. Sure enough, he saw two unconscious servant girls, their bodies covered in wounds, not one was intact. Suddenly, the anger in his heart surged up. Yes, I am. Lung Ruoxue nodded. How did Cousin Lan get into the prison? Yin Xian asked in a cold voice. These days, she often went to Mingxi Garden, so she got along quite well with Grape and Lotus Seed. Now, seeing them on the verge of death, she was a little angry. According to reason, unless there was an elder or her father's order, even the clansmen could not easily enter the prison of the Yin family. However, looking at the current situation, not only did Xiaolan enter, but she also almost beat them to death. We'll have to ask Elder Bang about this. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. This is none of my business. Hurry up and explain to the acting patriarch clearly, how did Xiaolan get in? Don't you know the rules of the Yin clan? How can you let Xiaolan in? After hearing the conversation between Yin Xian and Lung Ruoxue, Yin Bang shouted angrily at the guard. Elder Bang, Miss Xiao has your token in her hand. She said that you asked her to interrogate the two maidservants, so I let her in. The guard quickly told the truth. So that's how it is. Now Elder Bang had nothing to say. I only found out today that the members of the Yin clan who committed a crime could be interrogated by outsiders. I've really learned a lot. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly, her beautiful face full of admiration. How could I give Xiaolan any token, let alone let her interrogate the people of our Yin clan? Do you have any brains? Yin Bang berated the guard. Then he smiled at Lung Ruoxue and the rest. She must have stolen my token and come to the prison to take revenge. This has nothing to do with me. You must believe me. Does it matter if we believe it or not? Elder Bang, Xiaolan is one of your people, and now she has used your token to injure my maidservant. You must give me an explanation for this, or else I won't let this go. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face darkened. I've already said that this matter has nothing to do with me. Furthermore, Xiaolan is not one of my people. She's the niece of the acting clan head. Yin Bang said. Elder Bang, are you even a man? As everyone knows, Xiaolan is currently living at your place. If she's not yours, then who is? As a man and an elder of the Yin family, if he didn't take responsibility, how would he convince the public in the future? The many clansmen of the Yin clan will be disappointed in you. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Chapter 1433. You're sitting in my seat 3. Sister is right. My father had already asked my cousin's family to leave the Yin family, but you brought them back. Now that something has happened, you want to push it all away? No way. Yin Xian said angrily. Elder Bang, since you've invited me here to be a witness, I want to know what mistake they've committed. What did you steal from me again? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. The two of them are not clean. They secretly hid the spirit mist fruit that the head butler gave to Miss Lung. Yin Bang said, feigning calmness. Spirit mist fruit? The spirit mist fruits in their hands were given to them by me. However, they have never been willing to eat them. I can't even reward the maidservant with something that was given to me? Lung Ruoxue asked coldly. Miss Lung, do you know how expensive the spirit mist fruit is? How could he give it to two maidservants? I know you're kind and want to protect them, but this matter can't be settled just by admitting it. Yin Bang reminded. Right now, he was already a little angry with Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue had clearly promised that she wouldn't shield them, but now, she was still standing on the side of the two maidservants. This made him feel a little embarrassed and angry. I already said that I gave it to them, and this is not allowed? It seems that Elder Bang wants to kill those two maidservants. I really don't know what kind of deep hatred Elder Bang has with Grape and Lotus Seed. They are just two maidservants of the Yin clan. They shouldn't be able to offend you. Of course. If you want to stand up for Miss Xiaolan, then it's another matter. However, the one who bit Xiaolan was my beastie, so if you want her to take revenge, she should come at me instead. What kind of skill is it to use your own maidservant as cannon fodder? Lung Ruoxue's face was full of disdain, and her beautiful eyes that were spitting fire made Yin Bang's heart beat wildly. Miss Lung, you've misunderstood me. Xiaolan isn't anyone to me, so why would I stand up for her? When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxia's words, he looked at Yin Ping nervously before explaining. Clan head Yin Dai, what do you say about this? Lung Ruoxia ignored the irresponsible Yin Bang and turned to Yin Ping. I'll call for a meeting of the elders, and we'll make a fair decision. Yin Ping suppressed the anger in his heart. Yes. However, this matter involves me and my 2 maidservants, so I request to participate in your elders' meeting. Lung Ruoxia said after some thought. You're not a member of the Yin family, so how can you participate in our Yin family's elder meeting? Yin Bang said disapprovingly. Even Xiaolan can enter and exit the Yin family's prison cell as she pleases. Why can't I participate in the Yin family's elder meeting? Lung Ruoxia asked with a smile. I've said it before, my token was stolen. I didn't let her in. Yin Bang's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he explained. He was quite annoyed that Lung Ruoxia would not let go of this point. Elder Bang has a mouth, so he can say whatever he wants. Besides, you said that your token was stolen, but do you have any evidence? Have you reported it? Or perhaps, the theft of the token is not a big deal in your Yin clan, and there is no need to report it? Lung Ruoxia chuckled as she retorted. The elder's token has been lost, we must report it. Yin Ping, who had been listening to their conversation, suddenly said. I heard from the guard that Xiaolan took my token and entered the cell. That's when I found out that the token was lost, and I didn't have time to report it. Yin Bang quickly said. When Lung Ruoxia heard Yin Bang's words, she didn't say anything. She only looked at Yin Bang with a smile that wasn't a smile. Her gaze made Yin Bang's hair stand on end because her gaze was too sharp. Substitute clan head. I request to attend your elders' meeting. Lung Ruoxia said to Yin Ping. All right, he said. Yin Ping nodded his head as he sized up Lung Ruoxia. This was probably the first time he had seen a woman that his wife and daughter had praised so much. It was just as they had said, she was a rather impressive woman. Not only did she have a beautiful face, but she was also so eloquent that it made one feel fear. However, when he saw Yin Bang being dumbfounded by her questioning, he was extremely happy. Acting clan head. How could this be? She's an outsider. Seeing that Yin Ping had agreed, Yin Bang quickly reminded him. Lung Ruoxia was too powerful. He didn't dare to imagine how she would force the elders to attend the elders' meeting. Xiaolan is also an outsider. She'll also be attending this meeting. Yin Ping said indifferently. Why did you let Xiaolan participate? She doesn't have the qualifications. When Yin Bang heard that Xiaolan was going to participate, he immediately became anxious. Elder Bang, don't be anxious. Didn't your token get stolen? Let's question him face to face and see what's going on. In case someone confesses under torture again. Lung Ruoxia said with a smile. Then she said to Yin Ping, substitute family head Yin, please release these 2 maidservants first. I can prove that they did not steal anything. If the things that Elder Bang said they stole were the spirit fog fruits, then those fruits were given to them by me. All right. Yin Ping nodded his head and immediately motioned for the guards to carry the 2 maidservants who were covered in injuries out of the cell. Seeing this, Yin Xian took out 2 healing elixirs and wanted to feed them to the grape and lotus seeds. However, she was stopped by Lung Ruoxia. Xian, don't treat their injuries first. These injuries are all evidence. I just want to let the Yin family see how serious the crime they have committed is to be beaten up like this. Yes. Yin Xian nodded her head and kept the pill. She knew that her sister was really angry. After ordering the guards to use a single rack to carry the grapes and lotus seeds, Lung Ruoxia and her group left the cell and walked towards the Yin family's meeting hall. On the way, Yin Bang tried to find an excuse to leave several times, but Lung Ruoxia kept a tight watch on him. He could not leave even if he wanted to, and could only worry in his heart. Seeing how anxious Yin Bang was, Yin Xian and Xiaolin couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. He deserved it. Who asked him to come up with such a thing? Of all people to provoke, he had to provoke Lung Ruoxia. One must know that from the first time they saw Lung Ruoxia, they knew that this lazy-looking woman who seemed to be indifferent to everything was not someone to be trifled with. After everyone walked to the meeting hall, Yinping ordered his subordinates to invite the elders in the main residence to come for a meeting. Of course, he did not forget to send someone to bring Xiaolan. In the meeting hall, Leng Ruoxue casually found a chair and sat down, waiting for the elders to arrive. The seat she was sitting on was the second seat to Yinping's left. According to the Yin family's ranking arrangement, that should be the seat of the elder who was ranked third in the Elder Council. However, now that she had sat there, the elder who was sitting there naturally had to change his seat. Initially, Yinping wanted to remind Leng Ruoxue when he saw her sitting there. However, he remembered that the third elder and Yinbang had always been in the same boat, so he didn't bother to say anything. Besides, he also wanted to see what kind of ability this mid-level deity woman had to make his father bring her back. Since he didn't raise any objections to Leng Ruoxue's position, Xiaolin and Yin Xian naturally wouldn't say anything. However, just because they didn't say anything, it didn't mean that others wouldn't. When Yinbang saw Leng Ruoxue sitting in the third elder's seat, he reminded her, "Miss Leng, there's someone sitting there." "Oh really? I've taken a fancy to this seat, get him to sit somewhere else," Leng Ruoxue said in an overbearing manner. When Yinbang heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he could not catch his breath and almost passed out. Where did this woman come from? It was fine if she didn't put him, a god king, in her eyes, but who asked her to be his father's woman? However, even third elder did not take her seriously. Wasn't Leng Ruoxue a little too bold? One had to know that third elder's seniority in the clan was much higher than the acting family head, Yinping. This woman was simply too arrogant. However, her domineering aura was really pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at it. It was as if she was born like this. This was really too strange. Who's so bold as to ask me to change seats? All of a sudden, a loud roar was heard outside the meeting hall. Then, the door of the meeting hall was pushed open and dozens of elders walked in. Most of these elders were men, and the words just now were spoken by a man who was surrounded by them. This man looked to be in his 40s. Compared to the other members of the Yin clan, he was not considered very handsome. However, his aura and strength were not low. According to Qing Ju's voice transmission to Leng Ruoxue, this man had the strength of a divine emperor. His strength was definitely one of the best among the elders. Furthermore, he had deliberately added his own pressure to his words. It was clear that he wanted to use this to frighten Leng Ruoxue. However, what surprised him was that the woman sitting in his seat seemed to not feel his pressure and still sat in the chair, which made him a little embarrassed. Moreover, he was very sure that he had added pressure in his words. Looking at Yin Xian's pale face, he knew that if it was not for Yinping protecting her, Yin Xian would definitely have suffered internal injuries. Third elder, you've really gone too far. Leng Ruoxue didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, Yinping was the first to get angry because his daughter's cultivation wasn't high. If it wasn't for him by her side, how could she have withstood the divine sovereign's pressure? Acting patriarch, can't you tell if it's me or someone else who's going too far? Since when did our Yin family let a woman ride on our heads? And she's a woman who came out of nowhere. The third elder glared at Yinping with a venomous snake-like gaze. As a deity emperor, his divine consciousness was naturally incomparably powerful. If he had the intention to observe, everything that happened in the Yin family would not be hidden from him. Therefore, everything that happened in the prison was within his grasp, including the meeting hall. Thus, before he even walked in, he added his own pressure into his voice in anger, so as to give Leng Ruoxue, Yinping, and the others a chance to back down. However, he still miscalculated. Third elder, no matter what dissatisfaction you have, you shouldn't have added pressure into your voice. If she and Xianer were to be harmed in any way, the family head will not let you off. Yinping knew that he wasn't third elder's match, so he could only bring up his own father. Then the family head can't just watch me, the third elder, be bullied by an outsider. The third elder said coldly, "Is this the third elder? I wonder how I've bullied you?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a pure and innocent look. "You're sitting in my seat," the third elder warned. Chapter 1434. Hostage Exchange 1. This is considered bullying you? Leng Ruoxue laughed. In her entire life, This was the first time she realized that sitting in someone else's seat was considered bullying, even though she was sitting there on purpose. Our Ing clan is a clan that places great importance on rules and etiquette. You, a junior, actually dare to be so arrogant in front of an expert. This is really preposterous. The third elder growled as he suppressed his anger. If this woman wasn't related to the patriarch, he would have. What the Ing clan values has nothing to do with me. Although I'm much younger than you, it has nothing to do with you even if I'm a junior. So don't call yourself an expert in front of me. You're only a divine emperor, not an expert. If you want to be an expert, wait until you become a reverent god or a divine master. Lung Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. The moment her words left her mouth, it immediately caused a series of gasps. No one from the Ing clan, including Yin Ping's family, had thought that Lung Ruoxue would be so arrogant. Even though the Yin clan did not dare to claim that the third elder could control the sky with one hand, he could almost call the wind and summon the rain. However, in the eyes of this woman, he was actually worthless. Not to mention the emperor god, anyone else would be furious if they were in her place. As expected, the moment Lung Ruoxue finished her sentence, the red-faced third elder roared in anger. What an ignorant junior! Today I'll let you witness this elder's strength. With that, the third elder raised his hand. A trace of divine power gathered in his palm, and he was about to attack Lung Ruoxue, when a red light flashed. He felt a numbing sensation in his hand, and his arm drooped down. It was only then that the crowd could see clearly that the red light that had flashed past Lung Ruoxue's wrist was a fiery red, crystal-clear snake. It turned out that the third elder had been bitten by the snake. In an instant, everyone could only watch as the third elder's arm turned black. This was clearly a sign of poisoning. Seeing this, the third elder hurriedly used his divine power to force the poison out of his arm through the wound. By the time the poison had subsided and his arm had slowly returned to its original color, he was already drenched in sweat and panting. The third elder, who had forced out the poison, was extremely shocked. He kept cursing in his heart. What kind of venomous snake was this? The poison was actually so powerful. Even though he had managed to force the poison out, his arm was still numb, and he could not feel anything. However, because of his fear of the little snake, he did not dare to attack Lung Ruoxue rashly. However, Lung Ruoxue's next words almost angered him to death. Little fire. Are your teeth hurting? That person's skin is rough and thick, so it's not easy to bite him. Lung Ruoxue gently stroked Fiery's soft scales as she asked with a smile. And then, my teeth almost fell off. The divine emperor's skin is indeed thick enough, and his meat is not delicious. Little Fire nodded its little head, and said in an extremely serious manner, Hehe. In that case, try to bite less divine emperors in the future. I think it should be easier to bite divine kings. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes glanced at Yin Bang as she spoke. When Yin Bang heard her words and felt her gaze, he subconsciously lowered his head to hide his presence. His heart was constantly muttering, fuck. This woman was beautiful, but why was her heart so vicious? He actually wanted that snake to bite him. That was really too evil. Women. The strength of a divine king is too low, so I can't satisfy myself by biting him. Although the skin of a divine emperor is a bit thick, it's still a challenge for me. So, I'll bite the divine emperor. Fiery thought for a moment and said, then bite the emperor god. There seems to be quite a few deity emperors in the Yin clan that are enough for you to bite. However, Little Fire, we can bite people, but we have to run immediately after biting them. Otherwise, if they catch you, they'll definitely make you into soup. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with an evil smile. When the crowd heard the conversation between the man and the beast, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. There were many deity emperors among the crowd, and Lung Ruoxue had clearly incited her beast to bite them. Furthermore, it was the kind of beast that would run away after biting them. With the little red snake's speed, even if they were deity emperors, it would not be easy for them to catch it. Otherwise, Third Elder would not have been bitten. Although they were all divine emperors, there were differences in their strength. The Third Elder might not be the strongest among the divine emperors, but he was definitely one of the best. If even he could not do anything to the little red snake, then wouldn't they all be waiting to be bitten? At the thought of this, all the immortal emperor elders became depressed. They couldn't help but glance at the third elder, hoping that he could stand up for them. After all, among all the elders, the first elder was always in closed-door cultivation, and the second elder was also in closed-door cultivation. The third elder was the most powerful one. Therefore, they could only pin their hopes on him. Third elder, who was alone in his depression, felt the eager gazes of the other elders, but he didn't want to get involved at this time, so he could only choose to ignore them. When Yinping heard Leng Ruoxia's words and saw the expressions of the elders, he felt a heartfelt admiration for Leng Ruoxia. However, due to his status, he didn't dare to show it. He could only sigh in his heart. This woman was indeed brought back by father. Truly too formidable. Not only was he able to maintain a straight face in front of the third elder, who had the strength of a peak-grade deity emperor, he even agreed for his own beastie to bite the other elders. Wu. If it was someone else, they definitely wouldn't have the guts to do this. After all, this was the Yin residence. Although Yinping did not dare to show his admiration for Leng Ruoxia, Yinxian did not have such concerns. Her eyes were fixed on Leng Ruoxia and Xiaohua, not even blinking. If it was not for Xiaolin who gently pushed her, she would have rushed to Leng Ruoxia and Xiaohua and exclaimed, "Idle!" However, it was better to keep a low profile in such a tense moment. Even though Leng Ruoxia was talking to Xiaohua, she did not miss the expressions of any of the Yin clan's members. She glanced at the silent third elder of the Yin clan and smiled faintly. "Third elder, can you give this position to me? Weren't there two better seats in front? You can sit there," she suggested kindly. Chapter 1435. The Confrontation to Ugh. When the elders heard Leng Ruoxia's suggestion, a few drops of cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. They thought to themselves, this woman is really too evil. Can she just sit on those two seats? If third elder really sat down, it wouldn't take long for news to spread that third elder had the intention to replace first elder and second elder. If this reached the ears of those two, third elder's good days would probably come to an end. She was clearly bullying third elder. I really don't know how third elder provoked her, sigh. No wonder people often say that only women and villains are difficult to raise. It seemed that he could offend anyone but a woman. All the elders were sighing in their hearts. When third elder heard Leng Ruoxia's suggestion, he could not catch his breath and almost passed out. Third elder coughed nonstop, and his face had turned dark red. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxia quickly instructed Yin Bang. "Elder Bang, the third elder doesn't seem to be in a good condition right now. You should quickly go and help him. This is a great opportunity for you to perform. Don't miss it." Leng Ruoxia's words made Yin Bang roll his eyes. He thought to himself, with your words, I can't help even if I wanted to. Otherwise, others would think that he was taking the opportunity to show off. Such rumors were not good for his reputation. Seeing that Yin Bang did not move, Leng Ruoxia's beautiful eyes gently swept towards the other elders. When the elders received her gaze, they actually all turned their heads away in unison. It was obvious that no one had any intention of doing anything good at this time. Seeing this, she smiled faintly and said, "It seems that the third elder is not very popular. You're in so much pain right now, but no one is willing to help you. AI. Poor thing." Leng Ruoxia's sarcastic words caused third elder to cough even harder. In order to prevent third elder from losing his temper, Yinping hurriedly gave a look to the guards beside him. The guards understood and helped third elder, who was coughing badly, to find a seat and sit down. "All the elders, please sit down," Yinping said indifferently. The third elder's seat had been taken by Leng Ruoxia, and third elder had taken another elder's seat. Hence, the elder who had taken the seat could only swallow his anger and stand to the side. Who asked him to not offend either the third elder or Leng Ruoxia. Third elder's strength and status were both above his, so he naturally didn't dare to offend him. As for Leng Ruoxia, even if she didn't have the family head's support, she could still rely on that little snake that could even bite third elder to the point where he couldn't even fight back. This was enough to make his heart tremble with fear. Who would dare to provoke this tigress? After the elders sat down, Yin Ping slowly opened his mouth again. I've gathered all the elders today mainly because I have a few things to discuss with all of you. As for how to deal with it, we'll still follow the old rules. The minority is subordinate to the majority. Acting patriarch, what is it? An anxious elder couldn't help but ask. First of all, Elder Bang said that he lost his token. I've only just found out about this. He didn't report it to the clan immediately after he lost his token. How do you think we should handle this, elders? After a pause, Yin Ping continued. Master, I only just found out that I lost my token. I told you immediately after I found out. How can you say that I didn't report it? Hearing Yin Ping's words, Yin Bang quickly defended. Elder Bang, you even lost your personal token. You're too careless. I wonder where you lost it. Lung Ruoxia's voice rang indifferently in Elder Bang's ears. What does this have to do with you? This is our Yin clan's internal affairs. Don't interrupt. Yin Bang roared in anger. I'm just raising my own doubts. Since I'm able to attend your elder council today, it means that I have the right to speak, right? The head of the clan. Lung Ruoxia smiled as she asked Yin Pingdao, who was sitting on the main seat. Hee. This Yin Ping wasn't stupid. He knew that if he took Yin Bang's token first, he would not be able to explain himself. And Yin Ping nodded and then said to Yin Bang, Elder Bang, please answer Miss Lung's question truthfully. I also want to know where you lost the token, and how did you lose it? Acting clan head. My token can't be considered lost. It should have been stolen by someone when I was unprepared. Yin Bang thought for a moment, his heart filled with hatred towards Yin Ping and Lung Ruoxia. These two were obviously trying to get him to reveal the whereabouts of the token. How despicable. Now he was very clear that no matter what he said, he would be found by these two and further lure him into the trap. Who stole it? Yin Ping asked despite knowing the answer. Shouldn't the acting family head be very clear about who stole it? Yin Bang said with a smile. Elder Bang, we don't care if you lost or stole your token, or if you gave it away. I just want to know who could have stolen the Divine King's personal token. If it was lost, what else did you lose, Elder Bang? Did you lose your storage ring? Before Yin Ping could speak, Lung Ruoxia rushed to question him. The moment Lung Ruoxia's words left her mouth, all the elders present started to secretly discuss in hushed voices. Yup, this matter is strange. You think it's abnormal too? It's more than abnormal. The tokens are all kept in the storage ring. Can't you see that Elder Bang is still wearing that storage ring? How could he have lost the token? He probably lent it to someone else. The elders whispered to each other, and no matter how soft their voices were, they couldn't escape the ears of the people present. When Yin Bang heard the suspicions of the elders, his face turned red and white in anger, and he panted heavily. Elders, please calm down. Today, something strange happened in your Yin family's prison. Lung Ruoxia smiled as she spoke. What is it? An elder asked cooperatively. Xiaolan, who has been invited out of the Yin clan by your acting patriarch, actually entered the cell with Elder Bang's personal token and tortured the two maidservants who served me. According to the guard, she was interrogating the people who had made mistakes on behalf of the Yin clan. Although the two maidservants don't have much status in the Yin clan, they are still part of the Yin clan. I want to know if the people who have broken the clan rules are interrogated by outsiders? Lung Ruoxia asked the elders with a face full of doubt. Chapter 1436. The Confrontation 3. How is this possible? How could Xiaolan be so bold? Who's supporting her? After hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, one of the elders immediately shouted angrily. Xiaolan is the substitute clan head's maternal niece. The people who will support her are, of course, the substitute clan head and the mistress. An elder reminded. The person who said this was naturally someone who had a good relationship with Yin Bang and knew the truth. The purpose of his words was to drag Yin Ping into the water and reduce the dissatisfaction and suspicion the elders had towards Yin Bang. Elder, did you not hear what I said? I've already said that Xiaolan has been asked to leave the Yin clan by your acting clan head. As for where she is now, if you don't know, you can ask Elder Bang. He will tell you. Lung Ruoxia reminded him with a half-smile. Xiaolan's family had been invited by Yinbang to stay in their own courtyard temporarily. This matter was no longer a secret in the Yin family, so Leng Ruoxue did not believe that the person who had just spoken was not aware of it. However, whether he was really stupid or pretending to be stupid, it was useless in front of her. The elder who spoke was speechless. How could he continue with this? Elder Bang. It's not that I don't want to help you, but this woman is too powerful. I can't do anything about it. You're on your own. At the thought of this, he obediently shut his mouth. Elder Bang, where is Xiaolan now? Seeing that the elder had stopped talking, Leng Ruoxue turned to Yinbang and asked, Elder Bang, did you really bring Xiaolan to your own residence? An elder asked in disbelief. He had also heard some rumors about this matter, but he had not seen it with his own eyes. Now that everyone was curious, he might as well ask. I took pity on her, so I took her in out of kindness, but I didn't expect that she would steal my token and injure the 2 maidservants in the prison. Yinbang said with regret. Elder Bang, you're a god king, right? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. So what if I am? Yinbang coldly replied. Although god kings are not the strongest in the divine realm, they are still one of the strongest. You were actually able to let a woman who was not as strong as you steal your token. Could it be that your storage ring has developed intelligence and knew how to betray you with Xiaolan's help? Leng Ruoxue asked with a face full of curiosity. Her beautiful eyes kept glancing at Yinbang's storage ring, as if she was trying to see if the ring had developed a spirit. And her words made Yinxian couldn't help but laugh out loud. Haha, my sister is so amazing. She's my idol. Her heart was filled with excitement. Her eyes were fixed on Leng Ruoxue, afraid that she would miss out on any interesting scene. Elder Bang, what is your explanation for this latest words? Seeing that Yinbang did not respond for a long time, an anxious elder could not help but ask. Yinbang didn't know how to explain. It seemed useless to say that Xiaolan was Yinping's niece. These elders weren't stupid. How could they believe him so easily? He was really depressed and conflicted. Don't make things difficult for Elder Bang. He's so embarrassed to say it, so I guess this matter is also quite embarrassing for him. It's possible that Xiaolan used a honey trap, and Elder Bang fell for it when he wasn't paying attention. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Why were they the ones making things difficult for Elder Bang? The one who had made things difficult for Elder Bang and left him speechless was clearly this woman in front of him. When the elders heard Leng Ruoxue's words, they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. However, at this time, there were fewer and fewer elders who wanted to speak up for Yinbang. Even Elder Bang, who had always been eloquent, was rendered speechless by Leng Ruoxue's questioning. Of course, they couldn't take the initiative to give themselves up to be questioned by others. Furthermore, they were very sure that they would definitely not be able to win against Leng Ruoxue. Sister, whether Xiaolan used the honey trap or not, and how she obtained the Grand Elder's medallion, we can just find out by asking her, right? At this time Yin Xian, who had not said a word, reminded him. Xian Er's words make sense. Clan head Yin, can you invite Xiaolan in now? However, it's best for Elder Bang to avoid it. After all, you're the person involved. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Bring Xiaolan in. Elder Bang, you can stay in the inner hall. Without my permission, you are not allowed to come out. After Yinping finished speaking, he gave a look to the guard beside him. Following that, the guard respectfully invited Elder Bang into the inner hall. The so-called inner hall referred to a closed single room in the meeting hall. The purpose of this room was to prevent the weaker party from being threatened by the other party and telling false information when such a thing happened. In the inner hall, even a reverent god couldn't know what was going on outside, let alone threaten the other party through voice transmission. This was also a kind of protection for the weaker party. After Yinbang was unwillingly invited into the inner hall, Xiaolan was brought up by a guard. Seeing that the meeting hall was filled with elders, the confused Xiaolan was shocked. She did not know why she was here. Her beautiful eyes searched for Elder Bang's whereabouts but found nothing. Then she suddenly noticed Leng Ruoxue and could not help but be filled with anger. What are you doing here? Xiaolan looked at Leng Ruoxue as if she had seen her father's murderer. She immediately rushed in front of Lung Ruoxue and questioned her angrily. I'm here because of the opportunity Miss Lan gave me. Miss Lan. Don't just stand there. Please take a seat. Lung Ruoxue pointed to the seat beside her. Humph. You're tactful. Xiaolan did not even think twice before taking the seat that Lung Ruoxue had pointed out. When the elders saw this, they could not help but take a deep breath. They did not know what to say because that seat belonged to the great elder. Until now, no one had dared to sit there. Xiaolan, you can't just sit there, get up. Seeing that Xiaolan had really sat down, Yinping couldn't help but roar in anger. She was really brainless. No wonder Lung Ruoxue didn't even care about her. He had always thought that Xiaolan was quite smart, but why did she seem so stupid when compared to Lung Ruoxue? It was really too strange. Why do you want me to get up? If she can sit here, why can't I? When Xiaolan heard Yinping's words, she said angrily, humph. And he's my uncle. He actually caused her to be embarrassed in public. At this moment, she even hated Yinping, who she had been trying to please. That's the seat of the great elder, you can't sit there. Yinping gritted his teeth. Oh, when she heard that it was the seat of the great elder, Xiaolan did not dare to continue sitting there. However, she remembered that it was Lung Ruoxue who had asked her to sit there, and the anger in her heart rushed up again. Damn it! You actually framed me? How did I frame you? I'm kind enough to let you sit down, yet you're blaming me. AI. My good intentions really don't get rewarded. Lung Ruoxue sighed with a face full of hidden bitterness. This is the seat of the great elder, and you're asking me to sit here? If this isn't a trap, then what is? Xiaolan asked angrily. I'm not a member of the Yin family. How would I know whose seat it is? I only saw that it was empty. It's fine even if it's empty. It doesn't matter who's sitting. If you don't want to sit here, you can just sit there. Lung Ruoxue pointed to the seat opposite her. That's the seat of the second elder. You can't sit there either. Before Xiaolan could sit down, Yinping felt a headache coming on and quickly said. He could tell that Lung Ruoxue was clearly toying with Xiaolan. It was a pity that Xiaolan, who thought she was smart, didn't know. You're framing me again. Xiaolan said angrily after hearing Yinping's words. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was the second elder's seat. All the seats are full now, why don't you stand for a while? After Yinbang was brought into the inner hall of the meeting hall, there was originally an empty seat. However, it just so happened that the elder who was standing had taken it, so there really wasn't any space for Xiaolan to sit. However, it was obvious that she thought it would be better for Xiaolan to stand. After all, she had brought Xiaolan here to confront her. Stand up, I want to sit in your seat. Xiaolan ordered in an overbearing manner. My seat was given to me by the third elder. If he agrees, I can give this seat to you. Lung Ruoxue said with a light smile. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? How could the third elder possibly give his position to you? Xiaolan said with a look of disbelief. Although she didn't believe it, she didn't dare to ask the third elder. It's up to you to believe it or not. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she turned her head and ignored Xiaolan, who was stomping her feet in anger. When they heard Lung Ruoxue's words, the elders present had a tacit understanding not to make any comments, lest they angered the depressed middle third elder. Xiaolan glared at Lung Ruoxue for a long time before turning to look at the elders present. Finally, she fixed her gaze on Xiaolin and said with a wronged expression, Aunt, how can you just watch me get bullied by outsiders? Cousin Lan, I invited you to the meeting hall to discuss a matter. So, it's better for you to stand. Yinxian couldn't stand it anymore and said hee. Her father's impression of Xiaolan should be even worse now. His sister was really amazing. With just a few simple words, she was able to make Xiaolan reveal her true colors. A hostage? What confrontation? Xiaolan was confused. You went to the prison and tortured my two maidservants, right? Lung Ruoxue asked with a calm smile. So what if I am? They violated the Yin clan's rules, and I went to interrogate them on behalf of Elder Bang. However, they were too stubborn and insisted that you were the one who rewarded them. I had no choice but to use torture. Xiaolan said disapprovingly. You used Elder Bang's token to enter the prison, right? I'm very curious, how did Elder Bang's token end up in your hands? Lung Ruoxue did not argue with her, and continued to ask. However, her question caused some of the elders present to feel anxious. Just as they were about to open their mouths to warn Xiaolan not to speak nonsense, they were suddenly attacked by a red light that flew past them at high speed. Immediately, their mouths swelled up. They mumbled for a long time, but they could not say a complete sentence. After the red light finished attacking the unlucky elder, it flew back to Lung Ruoxue's wrist and wagged its little tail happily, as if it was very satisfied with its work. Lung Ruoxue gently stroked Xiaohe's soft scales as her beautiful eyes swept across the elders present. Just a casual glance had caused the pressure on them to increase. This was really too strange. None of the elders could understand why the other party, who was only a mid-level deity, would cause them to feel pressured. And this kind of pressure seemed to be innate. Chapter 1437. Self-Righteous 1. Due to the pressure that Lung Ruoxue was giving them, all the elders present did not dare to speak. After Xiaolan heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she said disapprovingly, "That's right. I used Elder Bang's token to enter the prison. How did his token end up in your hands?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a light smile. Her tone was as if she was just having a casual conversation. "Of course he gave it to me. Otherwise, how could I have gotten it?" Xiaolan replied with a disdainful look, as if she was saying, "Do you even need to ask such a simple question? Substitute clan head elders, you've all heard it, right?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a light smile. "I heard it." Some of the elders replied. However, a considerable portion of the elders didn't say anything because they didn't know what to say. "What's the meaning of this? What do you want to do?" After Xiaolan heard what they said, she looked at the gloomy expressions on the elders' faces. She was puzzled. What was going on? "Cousin, why did Elder Bang give you the token?" Seeing no one speak, Inxian couldn't help but ask curiously. "Of course. Why should I tell you?" After saying a few words, Xiaolan felt that something was wrong, so she changed the topic and questioned him. "I advise you to answer Xianer's question, because Elder Tai said that his token was stolen by you." Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she reminded him. "How is this possible? There's no way he would say that. I don't believe it." Xiaolan's eyes were wide open as she shouted in disbelief. "Ai, poor guy, even after being betrayed, he's still helping others count their money. You went to the prison and injured the Yin clan's maidservant, which in itself is considered overstepping your boundaries. Do you think the Yin clan will tolerate such a thing? Your actions are clearly a challenge to the Yin clan's authority. Because of the token, Elder Bang can't even protect himself. Do you think he still dares to speak for you? Don't be silly. In order to protect his position, the first person he betrayed was you." Lung Ruoxue said, gloating. "I don't believe what you're saying. You're lying." Xiaolan couldn't help but shout. The current her didn't have the demeanor of a well-educated and polite young miss from a large family. "Why else do you think the Yin family had ordered you to be brought here? Do you really not understand, or are you just playing dumb?" Lung Ruoxue said with a hint of mockery. "Cousin, what Big Sister said is true. I did bring you here to have you confront Elder Bang. Moreover, he has already admitted in front of so many of us that his token was stolen. And he even said that you were the one who stole the token. However, he's a god king after all. I'm very curious as to how cousin managed to steal the token from his hands." Inxian asked with an innocent look. "I didn't steal it. I didn't steal his command token. He gave it to me and said that with this command token, I would be able to move unimpeded in the Yin clan, and no one would dare to stop me wherever I want to go." When Xiaolan heard Inxian's words, she looked at the disappointed expressions on her aunt and uncle's faces and quickly said, "Humph. If Yin Bang wanted her to take the blame alone, there was no way he would. Even if she were to die, she would drag Yin Bang down with her." She thought to herself with endless hatred. "But what Elder Bang said is different from what you said. Which one of you is speaking the truth?" Inxian's face was filled with confusion, as if she had been confused. "Elders, who do you think is telling the truth?" At this moment, Lung Ruoxue's evil intentions once again shifted the topic to the elders present. Elder Bang's words must be true. This woman has been chased out by the acting patriarch, so she must hate our Yin clan. Therefore, we can't believe everything she says. Upon hearing Lung Ruoxia's question, the elder who was on good terms with Yin Bang quickly replied, "Oh really? Miss Xiaolan, did you hear what this elder just said?" Lung Ruoxia looked at Xiaolan and said with a smile that was not a smile. If Xiaolan was not stupid to a certain extent, she would not let go of Yin Bang. Otherwise, the Yin family, especially Yin Bang, would not let her off. Why should I hate the Yin family? Yin Bang said he would take revenge for me, so I promised him my body. You've obtained my body, and now that something has happened, you want to blame it all on me? I'm telling you. No way. You. And you. Don't think I don't know that you and Yin Bang are in the same boat. I know all the things you've been discussing behind your back. At most, we'll fight to the death, and none of you will be able to escape. In her anger, Xiaolan did not let Lung Ruoxia down. She revealed the few elders who were close to Yin Bang. Humph. She wasn't someone who could be easily used. If she didn't have something on them, how would she dare to show off in the Yin family and act like a tyrant for so many years? She couldn't help but be a little proud in her heart. Don't talk nonsense. When did we ever discuss anything behind our backs? One of the elders who was pointed out by Xiaolan shouted in a low voice while trembling. Elder Lang, is your memory that bad? Weren't you guys drinking together the day I arrived at Yin Bang's courtyard? Oh, and you insisted on having me drink with you. You even took advantage of me after getting me drunk. I still remember that. Xiaolan sneered. Aren't you drunk? How did you know that we took advantage of you? Your words are clearly contradictory. The man who was called Elder Lang was so angry that his face turned pale, and he couldn't help but roar. I'm just pretending to be drunk. Otherwise, I don't know how much more wine I would have to drink. I still remember what you guys said after I pretended to be drunk. Do you need me to remind you? Xiaolan said proudly. As soon as Xiaolan said this, Elder Lang didn't dare to speak anymore. He couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead, and his heart was beating nervously. You two were not interested in the gossip between the two of you. Right now, we only want to know how Elder Bang's token ended up in Miss Xiaolan's hands. It was Miss Xiaolan who stole it. Lung Ruoxia saw that the time was right and spoke again. Of course he gave it to me. If you don't believe me, you can ask Elder Lang and the others. They were also present at the time. Xiaolan glared at the somewhat guilty Elder Lang, and loudly said, Elder Lang, is what Xiaolan said true? When Yin Ping heard this, he also opened his mouth. Chapter 1438, Self-Righteous 2. It's true. It was Elder Bang who gave the token to Xiaolan. In front of everyone, Elder Lang had to betray Yin Bang in order to clear his name. He didn't want to be implicated by Yin Bang because of this. He could tell that these women were not to be trifled with. He had to remember to stay far away from women in the future. Patriarch Yin, didn't Miss Xiaolan say that Elder Lang and Yin Bang weren't the only ones? For the sake of fairness, I think you should also ask the other elders. Right, the third elder's opinion is also very important. Lung Ruoxia chuckled as she reminded him. Miss Lung's words are reasonable. Yin Ping nodded in agreement, and then his eyes turned to the few elders who had been pointed out by Xiaolan. Acting Patriarch, what Elder Lang said is true. The token was indeed given to Xiaolan by Elder Bang. We can be witnesses. The few of them were so frightened that they hurriedly said in unison, Why didn't you tell the truth before? A dignified elder actually allowed others to wrongly accuse an innocent woman. Is this something an elder should do? Lung Ruoxia asked with a cold smile. It is. Why didn't you say so earlier? You even caused me to be wrongly accused. Xiaolan questioned Lung Ruoxia after hearing her words. We are also trying to protect Elder Bang's reputation. The elders looked at each other and whispered. From that look, they had already made the decision to give up on Yin Bang. Otherwise, they would not be able to protect themselves. In order to protect Elder Bang's reputation, you want someone else to be the scapegoat? Isn't your behavior really chilling? If the entire Yin family knew that there was such a scum among their elders who could betray others at any time for the sake of their reputation, I wonder if they would still respect you as they always did? Lung Ruox's words were like a sharp knife cutting into their bodies, causing a chill to rise in their hearts. At this moment, the third elder, who had been angered to the point of being half dead, had actually closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. Uncle, you have to uphold justice for me. They actually dared to humiliate me like this. I don't want to live anymore. Lung Ruox's words gave Xiaolan a huge inspiration, so she immediately knelt in front of Yinping and started crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain. You get up. Don't embarrass yourself here. Yinping looked at Xiaolan with some disgust. Sigh. Why did he think that Xiaolan was obedient and sensible in the past? He had really misjudged her. This must be Xiaolan's true face. Xiaolan could hear the displeasure in Yinping's voice. She sobbed as she stood up from the ground, not daring to say anything else. She knew that she had already provoked her uncle's hatred. Her many years of planning had been destroyed in a day, and it was all that damned woman Lung Ruox's fault. She hated her in her heart, but now was not the time to be angry with Lung Ruoxue. She was still counting on Lung Ruoxue to help her deal with Yinbang and the others. Seeing that the elders did not speak, Xiaolan seemed to have stopped. Lung Ruox's beautiful eyes turned towards Yinping and said indifferently, Clan head Yin, it should be clear that Miss Xiaolan didn't steal Elder Bang's medallion, but was given to her by Elder Bang. Does anyone have any objections? You can bring it up now. Even though Lung Ruox's words were directed at Yinping, she was asking all the elders present. At this moment, none of the elders dared to speak. I have no objections. Yinping said, holding back his laughter. He was full of praise in his heart. This Lung Ruoxue was really smart and ruthless. With just a few words, she had actually helped Xiaolan clear her suspicion of stealing the token. However, would she be so kind? Or did she have another move? Yinping was looking forward to Lung Ruox's next performance because he didn't believe that Lung Ruoxue would be so kind as to help Xiaolan. One must know that ever since they had sat here, Lung Ruoxue had almost never mentioned the two servant girls who served her. He remembered very clearly that Lung Ruoxue had requested to attend their elders' meeting, because of those two servant girls. If any of you have a different opinion, you can raise it now. Otherwise, once the matter is settled, there will be no room for turning back. Following that, Yinping reminded the elders. Acting patriarch, I have no objections. An elder spoke first. We don't have any either. After most of the elders expressed their opinions, the elders who were closer to Yinbang also quickly followed. Does third elder have any objections? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously when she saw that third elder had yet to speak. After hearing Lung Ruox's words, Yinping's forehead started to drip with cold sweat. He couldn't understand why Lung Ruoxue would have her eyes on third elder. Ai. Poor third elder. You're on your own. You've taken my seat, so you're the third elder, so you don't need to ask me. The third elder, who was pretending to be asleep, said in a bad mood. However, as soon as he said this, all the elders' foreheads were filled with black lines, and they all sighed in their hearts at the same time. It looked like the third elder had gone mad with anger. To actually say such words. Did this sound like something a normal person would say? Don't tell me that whoever takes your position will be the third elder? Then if someone sat in the position of great elder, wouldn't he also become a great elder? Since third elder is so modest, then I will not refuse. Lung Ruoxue laughed and replied without any trace of politeness. You're welcome. The third elder suddenly opened his eyes and shouted while suppressing his anger. The first three elders are so angry. Anger is harmful to the body, especially at your age. You have to take care of your health. Lung Ruoxue emphasized the word front, angering third elder so much that he couldn't speak. He could only sit on the chair and stare. If looks could kill, Lung Ruoxue would have died 1,000 times over. When the other elders heard Lung Ruoxue's words, they immediately raised her to the level of an idol. What was this woman's background? She actually dared to speak to third elder in such a manner, and even drove the usually calm third elder mad. Otherwise, third elder wouldn't have said that she was the third elder. One should know that the position of an elder wasn't just for anyone. Other than having strong abilities, one had to make contributions to the family, or have an important position and prestige in the family. In short, someone like Lung Ruoxue, who had an unknown background, had to have a strong background. A woman with an unknown identity was definitely not qualified to become an elder, even if she was just an ordinary elder. Chapter 1439, Self-Righteous 3, Cough Cough. Yinping saw that the atmosphere was a little stiff and coughed lightly twice, pulling the elders' minds back. Clan head Yin Dai, the elders have no objections. You can decide how to deal with this matter. Lung Ruoxue chuckled in a good mood. Her participation in the elders' meeting this time was not in vain. Not only did she get the position of third elder for no reason, but she also took the opportunity to deal with Xiao Lan and Yin Bang, the two villains who colluded with each other. Her hard work in acting was not in vain. Since the elders have no objections, I will now announce my decision on Yin Bang. First, remove Elder Yin Bang from his position and inform the entire clan. Second, banish the entire Yin Bang clan to Flowing Wind Valley, never to return to the main city. If there are no objections, then I will announce these two decisions on behalf of the Patriarch and the Elder Council. Yinping looked at the elders present and said, Master, Yin Bang only lent the token to Xiao Lan. Isn't this punishment a bit heavy? An elder who had a good relationship with Yin Bang looked at Yinping's expression and said carefully, Heavy? What was Yin Bang's purpose in lending out the token? Don't you know how serious the consequences are? Yinping asked coldly. He didn't believe that these elders who shared the same pants as Yin Bang didn't know what Yin Bang's goal was and what Xiao Lan had done. This was the best opportunity to get rid of Yin Bang, so he would not let it go. This time, Yin Bang could forget about turning the tables. Substitute Patriarch Yin, there's no need for you to be so angry. I'm sure many of the elders present don't know what kind of consequences Elder Bang's token has caused. Why don't you order someone to bring the consequences in? Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. Good. Bring in the grapes and lotus seeds. Yinping nodded his head and ordered the guards beside him. The guards received the orders of the acting family head, and soon carried 2 stretchers into the meeting hall. The elders who were sitting looked at the 2 bloody women on the stretchers, whose faces could not be seen, and were shocked. Were these 2 the grape and lotus seed that the acting family head had mentioned? How did he end up like this? Among those present, other than a portion of the elders who understood the truth, many of the elders were confused. Previously, they had heard from Lung Ruoxue and the others that Xiao Lan had tortured the 2 maidservants of the Yin family. However, they did not expect Xiao Lan to be so harsh. One should know that even the Yin family would not torture their clansmen who had committed a crime. At most, they would send them to a remote place and let them fend for themselves. However, Xiao Lan's methods were clearly beyond their understanding, which made them a little angry. The Yin family had made a mistake, but they themselves were not willing to take action. Now the 2 maidservants in the prison had been beaten by an outsider. This was a huge humiliation to the Yin family. Therefore, in an instant, the anger in their hearts was ignited. Clan head, Xiao Lan actually beat up our clansmen like this. We can't just let this matter go. We must punish Xiao Lan severely. An elder shouted with righteous indignation. Right. Punish Xiao Lan severely. Since when did outsiders have the right to attack our Yin clan's people? This is preposterous. A single stone caused 1,000 ripples. After seeing the 2 maidservants covered in injuries, most of the elders were furious. Lung Ruoxue watched all of this coldly from the side, and laughed coldly in her heart. This was exactly the result she wanted. She wanted to clear Xiao Lan of the suspicion of stealing the token, so that Yin Bang would be dragged into this mess as well. The token in Xiao Lan's hands was not stolen, so Yin Bang would be charged with the crime of betraying others and colluding with outsiders to harm his clansmen. In this way, Yin Bang's reputation would be ruined, and his clansmen would all cast him aside. Oh, could this be considered as indirectly helping Yinping, the acting family head? Seeing the fierce looks on the elders' faces, Xiao Lan was a little scared. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she cried, It's not my fault. Bang gave me the token, and he was the one who asked me to interrogate these two maidservants. You're just an outsider. What right do you have to question our clan's people? Even if it's just two servant girls who made a mistake, you don't have the right. A tall and fierce-looking elder angrily rebuked. There's no need for this elder to be so angry. In truth, my two maidservants did not do anything wrong, but Bang insisted on accusing them of stealing the things your head butler had given me. He even domineeringly locked them up and incited Miss Lan to torture them. The true cause of this incident was my beast that had bitten Miss Lan. Bang wanted to avenge her, so these two maidservants are completely innocent. They should not have been treated like this. Lung Ruoxue said with a pained expression. Her words caused many of the family's elders who were considered upright to fall silent. After all, this kind of thing was not uncommon in large families, and it was rare for people to bring this matter up in public, because of the two maidservants. However, Lung Ruoxue had revealed the truth behind the scenes today, so they had no choice but to take it seriously. Even the elders who had thought that the punishment given to Bang by the substitute family head was too heavy did not dare to make a sound. After a moment of silence, Lung Ruoxue smiled and said, The truth of the matter is already known to all the elders. If you have any opinions or thoughts, everyone can speak freely. Acting patriarch, I think Bang's punishment is a bit light. He's such a traitor, and he doesn't care about the morality of his race. We can't let him off easily. We should expel him from the clan, and inform the entire divine realm. An elder suggested. I agree. I also agree. As soon as this elder spoke, it immediately received the response of many elders. I'll consider your opinions, but expelling Bang from the clan is no small matter. I'll have to ask the patriarch for instructions before I can make a final decision. As for Xiaolan, you can deal with her however you want. There's no need to give us face. Ping thought for a while and said. He didn't want the elders to let Xiaolan go just because of their relationship with her. In this way, he would have something to criticize in the hands of the elders. Now that he had lost his previous good impression of Xiaolan, he naturally wouldn't care about her life or death. Moreover, what Xiaolan had done was indeed intolerable to the family. Uncle, you can't leave me alone. It was Bang who made me do it. He said that he would think of a way to avenge me, and even said that he would hand Lung Ruoxue and the two maidservants over to me to deal with. I was also eager to take revenge, which was why I got involved with him. Uncle, please help me. After hearing Ping's words, Xiaolan, who was already a little scared, became even more nervous. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Her face was covered in tears, and she looked as pitiful as she could be. However, not many of the elders present would pity her, who asked her to do something that had already exceeded the family's bottom line. As one of the 8 great divine regions, how could the family tolerate an outsider riding on top of their own family? Clan head Dai, Xiaolan has injured my two maidservants so severely. Shouldn't you give them an explanation? Lung Ruoxue smiled and said. What kind of explanation do you want? Ping was a little surprised. He knew that Lung Ruoxue wouldn't let Xiaolan off so easily, but he didn't know how she was going to deal with Xiaolan. I like to give her a taste of her own medicine. Since Xiaolan has severely injured my maidservant, there's no reason for her to be alive. Lung Ruoxue said without a trace of emotion. Then I'll leave Xiaolan to you. Ping sighed lightly and said straightforwardly. He didn't expect that Lung Ruoxue would actually be willing to stand up for two maidservants. One must know that these two maidservants were members of their clan. As the acting clan head of the clan, even though he could not act as he pleased like Lung Ruoxue, he still had the authority to hand over Xiaolan to them. Then I won't hold back. After Grape and Lianzi are done with their revenge, I will return Xiaolan to you. Lung Ruoxue smiled in satisfaction. Yes. Ping nodded his head. Although he really wanted to say that he didn't need to return it, he didn't say it out loud. No, uncle, don't give me to her. When Xiaolan heard that Ping wanted to hand her over to Lung Ruoxue, she panicked and cried out in alarm. However, she was ignored by Ping. Aunt, don't let uncle hand me over to someone else. am begging you, Aunt. Seeing that her uncle wasn't even looking at her, Xiaolan had no choice but to ask Xiaolin for help. However, Xiaolin had also turned her head and looked to the other side. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue stood up from her seat and took out 2 pills from her bangle. She stuffed them into grape and lotus mouths. Not long after, the 2 maidservants stood up from the rack. Even though their clothes were still stained with blood that caused one's heart to palpitate, the 2 of them knew very well that their injuries had all healed. It was just that their clothes were still a little scary. Miss. After the 2 of them stood up, they looked at Lung Ruoxue gratefully. Even though their minds were not very clear, they had heard the contents of the confrontation intermittently, and knew that Lung Ruoxue had done a lot for them. Hence at this moment, their hearts were filled with gratitude and admiration for Lung Ruoxue. The substitute clan head has already agreed to let you take revenge on Xiaolan. Why don't you quickly thank him? Lung Ruoxue pointed at Xiaolan, who was still struggling on her deathbed, and said to the 2 maidservants, "Thank you for acting patriarch's fairness and severity." Grape and Lotus Seed bowed and said, "You have been wronged. The family should seek justice for you." Yinping said with some shame, "Acting family head, we really didn't take anything from the young lady. The young lady would give us anything she has. Why should we steal it?" Grape thought for a while and said, "I know. I'm already clear on this matter." Yinping said helplessly. He was already cursing Yin Bang in his heart. Housemaster Yin Dai, Elder Bang can be released from the inner hall. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a faint smile. "Yes, go and invite Yin Bang out." Yinping ordered the guard beside him. Yin Bang, who was in the inner hall, was worried that Xiaolan would expose what had happened between them. However, when he saw that the guard who had gone to invite him out was still respectful, he was slightly relieved. When he came out, he saw that the elder's expressions were normal, and Xiaolan was standing at the side like a wooden block. He felt more at ease. "Xiaolan, how dare you steal my token? You really don't want to live anymore." Yin Bang shouted, trying to prove his innocence. Chapter 1440. Meeting the Little One Again 1. As soon as Yin Bang spoke, the elder's expressions turned strange. However, he did not mind it because he knew that many of these elders would stand on his side. Therefore, he did not care even if some of them believed Xiaolan's words. After all, Xiaolan was an outsider, and it was almost impossible for the elders to stand on her side. Unfortunately, he had underestimated Lung Ruoxue's role in this. Lung Ruoxue watched Yin Bang's excellent performance with cold eyes and slowly opened her mouth to speak. "Elder Bang. Oh, it was wrong. You're no longer an elder of the Yin clan, so I should be calling you Yin Bang." "What did you just say? How can I not be an elder of the Yin clan?" Before Lung Ruoxue could finish her sentence, Yin Bang stomped his feet in anger and roared. "Oh, that's right. You don't know about this yet." Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. "You're no longer an elder of the Yin clan, and you'll be sent to some Flowing Wind Valley. The name Flowing Wind Valley sounds pretty good, but I don't know if it's as beautiful as its name. I wish you a happy life there." Lung Ruoxue laughed. "Flowing Wind Valley? I've been banished? This was impossible. You're lying to me." Yin Bang did not believe Lung Ruoxue's words at all. His first reaction was that Lung Ruoxue was lying to him. "Patriarch Yin, you should tell Yin Bang the good news." Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. "Yes." Yinping nodded and then said to Yin Bang, "Yin Bang, after the discussion between me and the elders, you have been stripped of your position as an elder, and will be sent to the Flowing Wind Valley from today onwards. However, in view of the serious consequences caused by your actions, the elders have proposed to expel you from the family. I will make an announcement after reporting this matter to the family head." "Yinping, can you repeat that? What right do you have to do this? I know that you've always found me an eyesore, but what mistake have I made for you to treat me like this? If the head of the family knew that you treated your brother like this, he would not let you off." Yin Bang said angrily after hearing Yinping's words. He was so angry that he didn't even address him as the acting family head. "Yin Bang, don't you know what you've done? You keep saying that your token was stolen, but after investigation, we've found out the truth. You gave the token to Xiaolan, and even promised her that you would take revenge for her. What else do you have to say? Yinping sneered as he questioned. This. How could you all believe Xiaolan's one-sided story? She's your niece. Yinbang reminded after hearing Yinping's words. She is indeed my niece, but everyone knows that she is staying at your place now. Moreover, the proof that you gave her the token is not just based on her one-sided statement. The elders who are close to you have also confirmed that you did give the token to Xiaolan. They were all present at the time. Now there are witnesses and physical evidence. Do you have anything else to say? Yinping said with a faint smile. This is impossible. Yinbang couldn't believe Yinping's words and turned to look at Elder Lang and the others. However, those elders actually turned their heads in unison. Yinbang, we're all clear about what happened, and we have no opinion on your punishment, so you should accept it. At this moment, an elder spoke indifferently. After he finished speaking, he couldn't help but sigh. What do you know? I didn't ask Xiaolan to torture the 2 maidservants in the prison. It was Xiaolan who acted on her own. What does this have to do with me? Yinbang quibbled, not mentioning the token at all. Yinbang, if she didn't have the token you gave her, would she have been able to enter the prison? Even if you didn't send her to prison, you created the conditions for her to go to prison. This matter started because of you, so you can't shirk it. As for what your goal is, you know it better than anyone else. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. This is our Yin clan's matter. How can an outsider like you interrupt? Upon hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Yinbang, who was still holding on to a glimmer of hope, was even more furious. This woman was clearly adding insult to injury. I really don't know how I've offended her. Why did she have to go against him? He could not understand. Am I an outsider? Your Yin clan's 3rd elder has already given his position to me. Am now your Yin clan's 3rd elder. Lung Ruoxue reminded Yinbang of this fact calmly. What? How is this possible? Yinbang asked in disbelief. The 3rd elder couldn't have done something like this. How could the position of an elder be given to someone else just like that? If you don't believe me, you can ask the first 3 elders. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. 3rd elder. Is this woman telling the truth? The moment Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, Yinbang asked hurriedly. It's true. The furious 3rd elder said in an unpleasant tone. 3rd elder. How could you do this? The 3rd elder's words infuriated Yinbang. He even forgot his own status and roared at the 3rd elder. What I want to do is my own business. You, a sinner who is about to be expelled from the Yin family, have no right to question me. When the 3rd elder heard Yinbang's words, his already unsightly expression darkened even more. I didn't question you. I just don't understand. Yinbang said with a smile. The 3rd elder was his biggest backer, and he would never dare to offend the 3rd elder. There's nothing I don't understand. In any case, I'm just an empty 3rd elder. No one respects me at all. Since that's the case, why don't I give it to someone else? The moment he finished speaking, the faces of everyone present, including Yinping, instantly turned ugly. This was because the 3rd elder's words weren't only meant for Lung Ruoxue to hear. He had clearly included everyone present in his calculations. 3rd elder has a high status in our Yin clan. Who would dare to disrespect you? If anyone dares to look down on you, I'll be the first to not forgive him. Yinbang quickly said. It's too late for you to say all this now. You won't be a member of our Yin clan very soon, and I won't be the 3rd elder. The 3rd elder lightly raised his eyes and indifferently reminded. Well said, acting patriarch. Can you order your men to take Yinbang away? They still have to pack up and head to Windflow Valley. After hearing 3rd elder's words, Lung Ruoxue laughed nonchalantly. Chapter 1441. Meeting the little one again too. Bring Yinbang back to his residence and watch them pack up. They are not allowed to take a single needle or thread out of the Yin family's master's residence. Yinping nodded and ordered the guards beside him. Yes. Yes, master. The guard replied, then grabbed Yinbang's arm and led him out of the meeting hall. Let go. You guys let go. am an elder of the Yin family. You can't treat me like this. I won't let you off. Yin Bang cried out in alarm. His voice was still reverberating in the meeting hall, but he had already been dragged out of the meeting hall by the guards. You can also take Xiaolan with you. Yin Ping turned to Leng Ruoxue and said. All right, he said. Leng Ruoxue nodded. She then turned to Grape and Lianzi. Let's go back to Bright Stream Garden. Xiaolan is now your exclusive property, so you can play with her however you want. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Grape and Lotus Seed's foreheads were filled with black lines. Miss Words really made it too easy for people to have their own thoughts. Furthermore, they were not interested in Xiaolan. They hoped that no one would misunderstand. Don't just stand there. Take Xiaolan and let's go back to Bright Stream Garden. Leng Ruoxue saw that Grape and Lotus Seed were still standing there stupidly after hearing her words. She couldn't help but remind them with a smile. Oh, yes, Grape and Lotus replied, slightly embarrassed. Then the two of them grabbed Xiaolan's arms and followed Leng Ruoxue back to Mingxi Garden. When they arrived at Mingxi Garden, Grape looked at Xiaolan, who was an eyesore, and asked with a look of disdain. Miss, what should we do with this woman? She's yours now, so you can do whatever you want with her. Also, you can rest assured that the acting master of the Yin family will not blame you. Leng Ruoxue was afraid that they wouldn't dare to make a move because of Yin Ping, so she gave the two of them a calming pill. Yes, we know. Grape and Lotus Seed quickly nodded. With the young miss around, how could the acting family head be dissatisfied? They could see that the Yin family's elders couldn't do anything to the young lady. Moreover, they seemed to be quite afraid of Xiaohua. However, what surprised them even more was that the third elder would actually give up the position of elder to the young lady in a fit of anger. This was really too inconceivable. Since you know, take Xiaolan down and treat her well. We must make her feel at home. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Yes. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at each other, feeling very satisfied. They didn't expect Xiaolan, who had always been arrogant in the Yin family, to have such a day. It seemed that sometimes one should not be too cocky, or else one would suffer retribution. Xiaolan's failure this time would definitely make the people in the Yin family who had been bullied by her very happy, and they were naturally included in this group. The two of them took Xiaolan to the storeroom and tied her up with a rope. Xiaolan, who had been in a daze, slowly came back to her senses. After seeing her condition, she shouted again. How dare you? Do you know who I am? You actually dare to treat me like this. Aunt and uncle won't let you off. Miss Lan, it was on behalf of the family head who handed you over to us to deal with. Have you forgotten? Grape said with a very kind smile. You're wrong. You must be mistaken. It was unknown whether Xiaolan was really scared out of her wits or her mind was in a state of confusion, but she kept repeating the words, You've made a mistake. Seeing that she was talking nonstop, Grape and Lotus Seed had no choice but to use a piece of rag to block her mouth. It's finally quiet now. If you disturb the young lad's sleep, we'll teach you a lesson. After Grape warned him, she pulled Lotus Seed along and left the storage room. For the next few days, Grape and Lotus went to the storeroom to entertain Xiaolan while Leng Ruoxue was taking a nap. After a few days of their warm hospitality, Xiaolan's body was covered in wounds, and it was a terrible sight. However, they would not be soft-hearted to Xiaolan because they had been tortured by her in the past. Now, they were just returning everything that Xiaolan had done to her. The Yin family had temporarily calmed down after the incident with Yin Bang and Xiaolan. At the same time, the Yin family had also realized that they could not offend the women living in Mingxi Garden. Nor should they have any ideas about the people around her. Otherwise, they would die without even knowing how they died. Weren't Yin Bang and Xiaolan the best examples? Yin Bang had not only been stripped of his position as an elder for helping outsiders bully his own clansmen, but he had also been sent to Windflow Valley to fend for himself. He had even been expelled from the Yin family with the approval of the patriarch. No one had ever thought that such an outcome would happen. There was also the depressed third elder who had lost his position as an elder because of a single angry word he had said. The great ancestor of the Yin family had actually agreed to this. Now that Leng Ruoxue was the genuine third elder of the Yin clan. Even though many people had doubts about this decision, no one dared to question the old ancestor. The current Lung Ruoxue was definitely living a carefree and free life in the Yin clan. Furthermore, her status as an elder gave her even more special privileges. At least, that old man no longer forbade her from staying in Bright Stream Garden. After a few days, Grape and Lotus Seed brought Lung Ruoxue around the Yin residence. Lung Ruoxue had also become familiar with the Yin residence. At least, most of the clan members recognized her. However, there seemed to be something else in the eyes of the clan members and the elders. After learning that the Yin family's main residence was much bigger than she had imagined, Lung Ruoxue returned to Mingxi Garden and did not step out of the house. However, Yin Xian would come and disturb her from time to time. Looking at Lung Ruoxue lazily lying on the reclining chair, Grape and Lotus Seed couldn't help but feel worried. These days, no matter what their young miss did, she didn't seem to be interested. They really didn't know what was wrong with her. "Miss, how should we deal with Xiaolan?" Grape asked Lung Ruoxue, who was pretending to be asleep. "If you've had enough fun, you can return her to the Yindai clan head. You don't need to ask me about this kind of thing." Lung Ruoxue replied indifferently without even opening her eyes. "Oh," Grape replied in disappointment. "Can't Miss talk to them more?" "Miss, I heard from the head butler that the person who came to save Xiaolan yesterday has yet to be caught." Lotus Seed continued after seeing Grape's failure. Chapter 1442. Meeting the Little One Again 3. Tell the head butler that there's no need to look for them anymore. Those people have all been bitten by Xiaohua. Even if they're alive, they'd rather die. Lung Ruoxue's tone was still calm, and no one could hear the anger in her words. "Yes," Lotus Seed replied. Then she exchanged a look with Grape. The two quietly walked to the side and began to discuss in a low voice. "Grape, what's wrong with Miss?" Lotus Seed asked worriedly. "I don't know. Could it be that you're tired of staying here and want to go out for a walk?" Grape could not help but guess. "Haven't you been outside for the past few days? Could it be that young lady is tired?" Lotus Seed guessed. "That's impossible, right? We're all cultivators. How can we get tired so easily?" Grape refuted. The young miss had saved their lives, so they had long treated Lung Ruoxue as their master. Now that they saw Lung Ruoxue's listless appearance, they were naturally very worried. "You stay here with the young miss. I'll go outside and see if there's any good way to make the young miss happy," Grape said to Lianzi after some thought. "Yes." Lotus Seed nodded and watched as Grape left Mingxi Garden. She then returned to Lung Ruoxue's side. For the next few days, Lung Ruoxue had yet to see the grapes. She couldn't help but feel curious. "Where did the grapes go? What are you busy with?" "I'm not too sure." Lotus Seed told the truth. He did not tell her what Grape was doing. Therefore, she was very curious about Grape's mystery. Moreover, Grape was not willing to tell her, which was really strange. "You don't know?" Lung Ruoxue said with a slight frown. She had been thinking of an excuse to leave the Yin clan for the past few days, so she had not paid much attention to Grape's behavior. However, it was a little abnormal that even Lotus Seed did not know what the grapes were doing. As the two of them were talking, Grape sneakily walked in from outside the courtyard. When he saw Lung Ruoxue, he ran to her with a face full of joy and presented her with a treasure. "Miss, look what I've brought you." "What?" Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and saw that Grape's chest was bulging. There was even a hint of white, like the fur of some kind of beast. "Miss, is this your beastie?" Grape took out little beastie, which she had hidden in her arms, and whispered, "Little guy." Lung Ruoxue looked at the aggrieved and teary-eyed Xiao Budian and suppressed the anger in her heart. As expected, Miss recognizes it. When Grape saw Lung Ruoxue call out the little beast's name, he said happily. It seemed like her efforts these few days had not been in vain. "Look at how happy Miss is now." "Yes, I recognize it. It was all thanks to it that I was able to be brought to the divine realm." "Where did you find it?" Lung Ruoxue gritted her teeth. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's clenched teeth, Grape wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and thought to himself, could she have misunderstood? Why was it that when the young miss saw this little thing, it was as if she had seen her enemy? I found it by a well in the main house. At that time, it was being bullied by the children of my clan. It was very scared when it saw me, thinking that I would also want to bully it like those children. I saw that it looked a little like the beastie that Miss had mentioned, so I spent a few days trying to please it. Finally, it was willing to come back with me. Grape explained. Actually, she had gone out of her way to look for this little beast, because she had heard Lung Ruoxua mention this little beast before. She had taken the initiative to think that this little beast was very important to Lung Ruoxua. Unfortunately, this little beast had always been staying in the master's main courtyard, which was not a place she could enter often. Therefore, she had been wandering around outside the main courtyard for the past few days, wanting to see if she was lucky enough to meet this little beast. The young miss would definitely be very happy. However, after walking around the main courtyard for a few days, no beasts came out. She had planned to return in disappointment, but accidentally found this injured little beast by a well. She saw that the little beast looked like a fox and wanted to bring it back. Who knew that although the little beast was not big, it was very fierce. As long as she wanted to get close to it, the little beast would show its sharp teeth to scare her. Afraid of being bitten, she had to spend a few days coaxing the little beast. Thus, it was only today that she was able to bring this cub back to Bright Stream Garden. Moreover, seeing that the young miss truly knew this beastie, she felt that everything she had done these past few days had been worth it. Grape, you're so considerate. Lung Ruoxua said. Miss, this is what your subordinate should do. As soon as Grape finished speaking, she wanted to hand the little beastie over to Lung Ruoxua. However, when the little beastie saw Lung Ruoxua, it was extremely resistant and kept retreating into Grape's hand. Seeing that Xiao Budian was still so afraid of her, Lung Ruoxua immediately took Xiao Budian from Grape's arms and pulled him into her embrace. Seeing the way Xiao Budian was looking at her pitifully, she could not help but chuckle. Don't be afraid. I won't hit you, even though you betrayed me. Really? The little guy timidly asked. Ever since he sneaked out from that old man's side to play, there wasn't a single person that didn't bully him. The only kind-hearted big sister even handed him over to this demon. Sob. As the last fox of the Fox clan, why was his life so bitter? It couldn't help but wail in its heart. As long as you listen to me obediently, you will do whatever I tell you to do. Otherwise, I'll make you go and accompany your ancestor. Lung Ruoxua smiled and threatened. This little thing was really too disobedient. If he didn't discipline her while she was still young, wouldn't she rebel against the heavens in the future? Besides, she couldn't let this little guy continue to think of her as a bad person. If it were to double-cross her a few more times, she would lose her little life in its hands sooner or later. Thus, she decided to adopt the strategy of seeking Xiao Budian's safety. From now on, she would let Xiao Budian stay by her side obediently and not go anywhere, in case he caused any more trouble. You're threatening me. You're a bad person. When the little guy heard that this terrifying demon actually wanted him to accompany his ancestors, his little heart trembled nonstop. His leopard cat clan only had one leopard cat left, and if he went to accompany his ancestors, wouldn't the leopard cat clan disappear from this world? No. This was absolutely not allowed. Although the old ancestor's last words had instructed him to follow this destined master well, this master was really too bad. Can it change owners? When Grape and Lotus Seed heard Lung Ruoxua's words and saw the little guy's appearance, they were a little puzzled. Wasn't it better to accompany the old grand madam? Why did that little beast look as if it had suffered a great grievance? One had to know that in their Yin clan, there were countless people who wanted to be by the old ancestor's side, but unfortunately, they didn't have the chance. This little beast actually didn't know how blessed it was, and the two of them couldn't help but curse in their hearts. As long as you're obedient, I'll naturally dote on you. Lung Ruoxua coaxed. Really? The little guy's face was filled with doubt. Yes, you have to believe in my words. I've never lied to Beastie, but you're not allowed to betray me. Lung Ruoxua warned. I didn't betray you, the little guy said in a small voice. Then why did I come to the divine realm? Lung Ruoxua questioned. This little thing actually dared to deny it. She really couldn't be taught. It was that old man who brought you here. The little guy lowered his little head and said, If you didn't bring him out of the nightmare forest, how would I have been brought to the divine realm by him? Lung Ruoxue said in an unpleasant tone. I thought he was playing with me. That's how we've always been playing. The little guy explained with some grievance. Although he was young, he was not stupid. After seeing that the old man brought this female demon to the divine world, he knew that he had become an accomplice. Furthermore, he was also afraid that this demon would not let him off, so he had always stayed in that old man's residence. After all, compared to this demon, that old man was still quite good to him. However, after staying for a long time, he became a little bored, so he sneaked out. Who knew that the outside world would be so terrifying? Even such a cute beastie was being bullied. Woo. Compared to those hateful children, the female demoness was still considered kind. At the thought of this, it snuggled in Lung Ruoxue's arms and found a comfortable position to lie down. It even closed its eyes. Seeing Xiao Budian in this state, Lung Ruoxue sighed helplessly and carried him back to the room. After the little guy stayed in Mingxi Garden for a few days, he began to like the life here. Not only were there people who served him well every day, but after spending time with the female demon for a few days, he was surprised to find that the female demon didn't seem to be as scary as before. Sometimes she would even play with him. This also slowly improved his impression of Lung Ruoxue. In the garden, the little guy excitedly scuttled around in the flower bushes. In a moment's time, the originally beautiful flowers in the garden had become wilted. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue had no intention of stopping it. After all, the flowers and plants here did not belong to her. So even if they were destroyed, she would not feel any heartache. Furthermore, this was a good time for her and the little guy to get closer to each other, so she could not miss it. After all, she was still counting on the little guy to use his talent to bring her out of this place. She really had enough of being a canary. She didn't know what the old man's motive was for bringing her back. He actually didn't show his face all this time. However, it seemed that the old man didn't hide what happened in the Yin family. But what was the meaning of him hiding and not showing his face? She couldn't figure out what the old man was thinking. Sister, come and play with me. The excited Xiao Budian looked at Lung Ruoxue, who was not too far away, and shouted. Over the past few days, his title of Lung Ruoxue had changed from demon to big sister. It could be seen that the relationship between the man and the beast had grown much closer. I'm not in the mood to play, you can play by yourself. Lung Ruoxue said with a face full of hidden bitterness. She became listless again. Seeing this, Grape and Lotus Seed, who were by her side, did not change their expressions. They seemed to have gotten used to it. Sister, you're in a bad mood? What's wrong? Xiao Budian ran to Lung Ruoxue's side from the flowers and asked with concern. I've been here for almost a month. If I stay any longer, I'll become stupid. I really don't know how long that old man wants to keep me locked up. Lung Ruoxue said in an exaggerated manner. That old man is even more cunning than a fox. However, if elder sister wishes to leave, I can help you. The little guy spoke with a sense of loyalty. From this, it could be seen how successful Lung Ruoxue's abduction was. Chapter 1443, Meeting the Ning Family 1. You're really willing to help me? Lung Ruoxue confirmed, but she couldn't help but chuckle in her heart. What an easily deceived little fellow. It was no wonder that she was deceived by the old man. Moreover, after spending these few days together, she also discovered that this little thing was actually a child who really needed someone to coax and accompany him. Even just giving him a little benefit could make him so happy that he couldn't find his north. So her attitude towards the little guy had improved a lot these days. Yes, I don't want to stay here anymore. There are so many bad people here who like to bully me. The little guy said with the same feeling. Then take me out of here. Lung Ruoxue deliberately thought for a while before she replied. All right, he said. The man and the beast quickly reached a consensus. However, their conversation made Grape and Lotus, who were not far away, feel puzzled. They had no idea what they were talking about. In their eyes, how could this little beast possibly have the ability to bring Lung Ruoxue away from this place? Not to mention that the Yin residence had always been heavily guarded. and one had to go through layers of checks if they wanted to leave. Young Miss could not leave the main residence without the consent of the master. Therefore, they did not really believe what they had not pointed out. However, looking at young Miss' serious expression, the two of them were a little confused. Miss, you can't leave the main residence without the permission of the master. Grape kindly reminded. Who said that I can go anywhere I want with the little one, right? Little guy. Lung Ruoxue carried Xiao Budian into her arms with a hint of pride. Yes, that's right. With me, big sister can go anywhere she wants. The little guy excitedly nodded his little head. Grape, Lotus Seed, you've served me for so long, so I won't make things difficult for you. Before I leave, I'll knock you out so that you won't be implicated. However, don't try to stop me from leaving. I don't want to stay here any longer. Lung Ruoxue looked at the two maidservants and deliberately made her words very clear. Miss, we know that we can't stop you. However, the divine realm is very dangerous. It's not suitable for you to walk in the divine realm with your current strength. Lotus Seed said in a very reserved manner. In fact, she was very reluctant to let Lung Ruoxue leave. However, she knew very well that Lung Ruoxue had made up her mind to tell them this. Furthermore, the young miss had thought about it very thoroughly. However, she still felt very uncomfortable in her heart. Miss, you want to abandon us? Grape was an impetuous person, and he was more direct than Lotus Seed. Grape's words made Lung Ruoxue's forehead fill with black lines. What did she mean by wanting to abandon them? They were not her maidservants to begin with, all right? How did leaving them in the Yin family become abandoning them? I never thought of abandoning you. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly as she looked at Grape, who had a serious and resentful expression on her face. Miss wants to leave this place, but she wants us to stay. If she isn't abandoning us, what is she? Grape complained. You're from the Yin clan. I can't possibly kidnap you all. Of course you have to stay. Lung Ruoxue wiped away the cold sweat on her forehead as she reminded him. Why can't you take us away together, miss? I'm going to leave with you. You're not familiar with the divine realm, so I can protect you if we meet any bad guys. After all, I'm a deity. Grape said very seriously. Alright. You're stronger than me now. However, if I really encounter a bad person, I'm afraid you won't be able to protect me. Lung Ruoxue could not help but remind him. There's strength in numbers. Moreover, I don't dare to say that I'm very familiar with the divine world, but I can still be a guide for young lady. There are many dangerous places in the divine world that you can't go to, at least with young lad's current strength. Grape said very responsibly, Miss, I also want to leave with you. From now on, we're your people. Upon hearing Grape's words, Lotus Seed hurriedly added as if she was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would abandon her. Previously, she did not dare to make such a request, because she was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would reject her. Now that Grape had already brought it up, she naturally did not want to be left behind. In reality, ever since Lung Ruoxue had saved them the last time, they had already given up on her. However, due to their status, they did not dare to say these words out loud. However, now that the young miss had decided to leave, if they did not say these words now, they might not have the chance anymore. Miss, Lotus Seed and I are willing to be loyal to you forever and serve you for the rest of our lives. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at each other. Then, the two of them knelt down in tacit understanding and issued a loyalty contract. With this, Lung Ruoxue could not refuse even if she wanted to. Lung Ruoxue looked at the two of them and sighed softly before saying, Since you're willing to follow me, then the Yin family will have nothing to do with you in the future. Don't worry, miss. Lotus Seed and I are both orphans. Our parents have passed away a long time ago, and we don't have any relatives in the Yin family. We will never betray young lady. Grape understood Lung Ruoxue's words and quickly promised. You've already issued the loyalty contract, so I naturally believe you. In the future, don't just kneel down in front of me. I don't like this subordinate. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. She didn't expect that before leaving the Yin family, she would be able to abduct two maidservants from the Yin family. This would be the interest that the old man gave her. As for the emotional damage, He would settle it with the old man in the future. Yes. Upon hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, Grape and Lotus Seed quickly stood up. The two of you, go and pack your things. Well, leave immediately. Lung Ruoxia continued. Miss, we don't have much to pack. The two of them quickly said. Then let's go now. Little guy, I'm counting on you. Take us to a good place. Lung Ruoxia instructed. She was extremely excited. She was finally leaving this place and no longer had to be a canary. Yes, yes. Xiao Budian nodded his little head vigorously. Following that, he used a white light to envelop Lung Ruoxia and the other two within it. The eye-piercing white light caused the three of them to close their eyes involuntarily. When they opened their eyes again, the three of them and the beast had already left the Yin clan. Grape and Lotus Seed looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. They never thought that in the blink of an eye, they would leave the Yin family's main residence. This was truly too inconceivable. They never thought that the little guy would actually have such abilities. No wonder the young miss wanted to find him. Now they finally understood why the young miss had asked for the little guy's whereabouts the moment she opened her eyes when she first arrived at the Yin family. Chapter 1444, Meeting the Ning Family 2. Miss, have we really left the Yin family? Lotus Seed felt as if everything was a dream. It was so unreal. Before this, she was still thinking about how to bring Lung Ruoxia through the Yin family's many obstacles. I didn't expect him to leave so easily. This made her a little uncomfortable. But where was this? Grape, who felt that she had some understanding of the divine world, also had the same doubts. Looking around, the three humans and one beast were in the middle of a tall mountain. Moreover, this mountain was a barren mountain. Although the trees on the mountain were tall and straight, many of them had already withered. Not far away, the grass that was half the height of a person made people have no desire to go in and explore. This place was really too desolate. Where is this place? Lung Ruoxia looked at the overgrown grass in front of her, and her expression turned uglier. She clearly wanted Xiao Budian to find a good place, but where did Xiao Budian take them? A barren mountain or a barren forest? Other than the three of them and the beast, there probably wasn't even a single insect to be found. She couldn't help but complain. Miss, I don't know this place either. Grape said, a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. We should be out of the Yin residence by now, but we have to find a way out of here. Lung Ruoxia consoled. At this moment, Xiao Budian, who knew that he was brought to the wrong place, buried his head into Lung Ruoxia's arms without saying a word, and did not dare to make a sound. Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes scanned the surrounding environment, trying to find a way out. However, all she could see was grass that was half the height of a human. The only way they could leave was to create a path for themselves. Miss, let the little guy take us out of here. Doesn't it know how to teleport? Grape suggested. I can't take you guys out of here anymore. I'm still young, and I've traveled a long distance this time, so I don't have any strength left. When the little guy heard Grape's words, he raised his little head and explained. Woo. He was so tired right now. This time's transmigration had consumed all of its physical strength. It was a pity for its small body. It was really exhausted. Why were you so energetic when you were on the godly mainland? Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but ask. Back then, Xiao Budian would always appear and disappear like a ghost. He would appear wherever he wanted to go, and they couldn't guard against him. That's different. As long as it's not a long-distance travel, it won't consume much of my energy. However, this is probably the longest distance I've traveled since I was born. I'm really exhausted. The little guy pitifully said. How long will it take for you to recover? Lung Ruoxia asked again. At least half a month. The little guy thought for a bit and said. It seems like we'll have to stay here for half a month. Lung Ruoxia said helplessly. Without Xiao Budian's help, it wouldn't be easy for them to leave this place. In addition, most of her spiritual beasts were in closed-door cultivation. Therefore, even if she wanted to use her flying beasts to fly away from this place, there was no way. However, since she was already here, she should just take things as they were. This godforsaken place could just be considered a part of her life in the god world. Miss, then let's set up the tent first. Upon hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, Grape also became more at ease. Yes. Lung Ruoxia nodded and watched as Grape and Lotus Seed set up their tents. She found a place to start a fire. Their current location should be at the highest point of a mountain or forest. In addition to the fact that the sky was getting dark, it had become unusually cold. Miss, well, do the hard work. The tent has been set up, so you can go and rest. After Grape and Lotus Seed had finished setting up their tents, they saw Lung Ruoxia preparing food and quickly said, I'm not as delicate as you think. Besides, it's not hard work. Cooking is a rare pleasure. Lung Ruoxia chuckled. But with us here, how can we let young Miss do this? Could it be that young Miss dislikes the food we make? Grape pursed her lips on purpose and said in a slightly dissatisfied tone, I'm scared of you. You guys do it, okay? Lung Ruoxia said helplessly. During this period of time, these two maidservants' cooking skills had gotten better and better under her training. Therefore, they always wanted to rush to cook. After they were done, they would look at her with eager eyes and wait for her praise. She really didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their childish behavior. This is our job to begin with. Miss, you can't snatch it from us. The Grape still acted like a good girl after getting a bargain, and her beautiful face even revealed a fox-like smile. All right. Then it'll just be a hands-off shopkeeper. Lung Ruoxia sighed softly. Having two hard-working maidservants was both a good and bad thing. The good thing was that these two maidservants would take the initiative to do what they saw without her instructions. However, this way she had nothing to do. Yes. Grape and Lotus Seed nodded happily. After the three of them had dinner, they returned to their tents to rest. In the next few days, Lung Ruoxia and the other two wandered around the area where the tent was set up. They gradually found out where they were. The place they were standing on was indeed a very magnificent mountain, but this mountain had been abandoned for a long time. Looking at the dense weeds, it was clear that no one had come here for a long time. After clearing the weeds behind them, they looked down and saw a vast blue sea. They were at the top of the mountain, and if they accidentally fell, they would be buried in the stomachs of the fish. The three of them spent a few days investigating the terrain. They then obediently stayed in the campsite and waited for Xiao Budian to recover his strength. At this moment, Xiao Budian had already been sent into the bracelet by Lung Ruoxia and was absorbing the spiritual energy within the bracelet to his heart's content. Miss, the little guy has been resting for 10 days, right? Grape said as he sat in front of the tent and counted the days. Yes, why? Are you anxious? Lung Ruoxia asked in amusement. Yup. I don't even see an insect here. I don't know what I'm doing every day. Grape sighed. As soon as she finished speaking, there was a sudden commotion in the grass. The three of them immediately turned their attention to it and became alert. Grape and Lotus Seed subconsciously shielded Lung Ruoxia behind them and watched every movement in the underbrush without taking their eyes off it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.